Okay, shalom, y'all. Hope everybody's doing tawab. Salakia for being a little late today. Once again, shout out Kawakab and his congregation in Guatemala, and the brothers and sisters that they teach from Cali to Georgia. Hope everybody's doing well. I'm a Yatazar in England. Good day, mate. Good day, shalom, shalom, shalom. Tawab Kazakia, SOW Virginia. Shalom, what's up, SOW Houston, and shalom, Zion, SOW Rochester, New York, and all the brothers and sisters out here teaching his word and making sure their priority is the body of Christ. Hope everybody's doing tawaf today and they're staying strong and they're staying potent. We're going to send our prayers to the Most High, give him praise, and then get into our topic today. Right? Rakta Yahweh Shem Yahshua. Rakta Yahweh Shem Yahshua. Ahawa. Natam Lanawa. Award. Taiwan. The water. Aman. Blessing Yahweh in the name of Yahushua that gives us like this day. Thank you. So be it. Rakta Yahweh Shem Yahshua. Rakta Yahweh Shem Yahshua. Ahawa. Natam Lanawa. Raya. Nayakaka. The water. Aman. Blessing Yahweh in the name of Yahushua that gives to us sweet favor. Thank you. So be it. Imagine Waponya, Yerushalayim. Stand and face Jerusalem. Rakta Yahweh Shem Yahshua. Rakta Yahweh Shem Yahshua. Ahawa. Natam Lanawa. Shabbat. Shalom. The water. Aman. Blessing Yahweh in the name of Yahushua that gives us the Sabbath in peace. Thank you. So be it. Psalms 121. Anasha, Ayam Maharya, Ma'aya, Yabu'a, Isaiah, Yabu'a, Ma, Yahweh, Aisha, Shemaiah, Wa'aratisa, La'a, Yanatan, Lamawat, Galia, Yala'a, Nawam, Shemariah, Hana, Yala'a, Nawam, Wala'a, the sun. Joshua Mar, Yasharala, Yahweh, Shemaria, Yahweh, Cesaria, Ayo, Yam, Hashemah, Gala'ah, Hakaya, Bayawam, Wala'ah, Alabana, Walayala, Yahweh, Yashemaria, Makol, Rai, Yashemar, Napasha, Yahweh, Yashemar, Amalaki. Aman. Psalm 121 in English. I will lift up mine eyes unto the hills from which cometh my help. My help cometh from Yahweh, which made heaven and earth. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee will not slumber. Behold, he that keepeth Yasha'Allah shall neither slumber nor sleep. Yahweh is thy keeper. Yahweh is thy shade upon thy right hand. The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night. Yahweh shall preserve thee from all evil. He shall preserve thy soul. Yahweh shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth, and even forevermore. Amen. Israelite credo. Shema Yasharala. Yahweh. Alahayinahu. Yahweh. Achad. Shema Yasharala. Yahweh. Alahayinahu. Shema Yasharala. Yahweh. Alahayinahu. Yahweh. Deuteronomy chapter 6 verse 4. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our power is one Lord. Lord's Prayer. Abanawa. Shabbat Shemaiah. Wadat. Hayah. Shabbat. Yahweh. Wadat. Ta'af. Ratazaka. Hayah. Aisha. Wa'aratisa. Hawa. Hayah. Vashemaiah. Dalanawa. Wafam. Paul. Yawam. Wasalatno. Kawatno. Hasalatno. Kawatno. Wala'ah.
Lord's Prayer in English, Matthew chapter 6, verse 9. After this manner, therefore, pray ye. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen.
Amen. 10 Commandments. Thou
shalt have no other powers before me. 2. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image nor serve them. 3. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy power in vain. 4. Remember the seventh day to keep it holy.
Number 5.
Honor thy father and thy mother.
Number 6.
Thou shalt not kill, murder.
Number 7.
Thou shalt not commit adultery.
Number 8.
Thou shalt not steal.
Number 9.
Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor.
Number 10.
Thou shalt not covet anything which is thy neighbor's.
Birthday, how about you now, Shai?
Birthday, how about you now, Bless you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai that gives to us the law.
Israel, Yeshavi.
Israel, take seat.
Okay, Israel, I hope everybody is doing Tawab today. Once again, Shabbat Shalom. I'm pretty excited because we're going into uncharted waters, so to speak. And it's always refreshing to go into new aspects of the book and aspects that we don't really go into on a consistent basis. The water for y'all patience through this entire journey. And all these new topics, the water for tuning in and listening and checking us out and giving us the time of day. From our perspective, it's been great, and it's great learning more and more and more, and seeing how the more you continue to go into these topics, the more you start seeing these same issues that we face, we deal with even in these present times. When we read the scripture about them, the things in the aforetime are written for our learning, those are truly facts. And everything we go through, everything we are experiencing in schools and camps, they are our ancestors and our forefathers faced it from Genesis all the way to present day, all the way to the New Testament, and even in that middle period of time of the Hasmonean dynasty. And we're going to kind of go into more specifics as we continue in our classes. So the topic of the class today is the death of Simon and the emergence of John Hyrcanus. We're about to phase out of the great sets of brothers that had such a lasting impact in the nation, from Judas Maccabees, Jonathan, and Simon Thasson. These men laid the spiritual foundation for all the things we needed to establish the kingdom or our vassalship until Christ came back. And we're going to kind of go into all that entire process in these next few weeks that kind of goes from the death of Simon, then his son John Hyrcanus, and all the other men that attempted to lead the nation running all the way to Herod. And then once we get to Herod, you know what's next is Christ. Then we go on to the gospel. So let's go to 1 Maccabees chapter 16, verse 11 through 24. Right? You salute it in.
Right. Shah Shabbatah, Banashah, Banashala.
Right. So Shabbatah, Banashah, Banashah, Majid. Right? Yahweh Hashem Yashar Makatah.
Yahweh Hashem Yashar Rakatam.
All right. So let's do this. So once again, the last few weeks we have been dealing with the chaos and the civil unrest amongst the Greek Empire. And what we had did before, we explained all the good works that Simon had accomplished in his reign of power. He reigned for 8 years. During his administration, our finance started picking up. Remember, he fought and pushed a lot of the Philistine lands back. We were awarded Gaza in war, and Joppa, which was that major port city that we needed to boost our economy up. So financially, the people were happy. Spiritually, the people were happy. There was an era of contentment, and he was the first universally accepted high priest with power. Because his brothers were more in a situation where they had to fight in wars to get Simon to that position. So we initially talked about all of Simon's success. And then we went into all the chaos of the Greek Empire. It was all happening at the same time. But it didn't make sense to ultra focus on Simon and the Greek failures all at once. We focus on Simon, then we focus on the chaos amongst the Greeks. Secondly, but it was all happening at the same time. So in this 8-year period, the Greeks kept falling, and there's one king, Antiochus VII. It was Demetrius II, Antiochus VII, and then other men that kept fighting for positions in that period of time. Trypho was getting killed. All these things were happening in the midst of Simon's era of tranquility and peace in the kingdom. So that's where we left off over the last 3 weeks. Now we're here. Simon is aged. He still runs the empire, but he's an older man, and he's been delegating his authority. He's married off his daughter. So things are peaceful in the kingdom. Okay? But you know, like the scripture says, we're good as what? So let's read about the evil. Verse Maccabees 16 and verse 1.
First Maccabees, chapter 16 and verse 1. Then came up John from Gaza.
John came up from Gaza. Gaza is Gaza. In previous chapters, we might go into it a little bit, that Gaza was the fortress that John was awarded many chapters ago. That Simon awarded him. Not just awarded him, he was a fighter, and that was his son was his most trusted, I guess, captain. So he put his son in Gaza to make sure that the area or the region was ran properly. So John came from Gaza. Read on.
And told Simon, his father, what Sanballat had done.
Okay.
Wherefore?
No, I'm sorry. This isn't verse. I don't want verse 1. We already went through this. Jump to verse 11.
Verse 11.
Because from where verse 1 to 10 just dealt with how Simon in his old age went and fought Sanballat and took out Sanballat, who came and fought Simon and his men under orders of Antiochus VII. Remember when Antiochus VII had Trypho in siege and had initially made peace with Simon and switched up because he wanted money.
Yeah.
He wanted Gaza, and he wanted that territory, and he wanted the monies and proceeds to come from that to build his kingdom.
He needed him as an ally to fight. And then as soon as he had him, he switched up on him.
God, and that's so. This is where when verse 1 to 10 talks about that. So, Salaki, let's jump to verse 11.
First Maccabees chapter 16 and verse 11. Moreover, in the plain of Jericho was Ptolemaeus, the son of Abubus?
Abubus, yes.
Yeah, come. The son of Abubus made captain.
So there was a man named Ptolemaeus, son of Abubus, was made captain in the region of Jericho. Jericho is east, obviously, of Jerusalem. And obviously, when you start expanding your empire, you have to sit back here. You can't expand camps, schools, military operations without trusted advisors, people that you can depend on and count on. I don't know what Ptolemaeus had, because all the scripture said he had an abundance of silver and gold, so he had money. But he was chosen to lead and be the captain in this region of Jericho. So as Simon is dispersing his empire, he was given power in Jericho. This guy Ptolemaeus. Read on. Now, the problem is this. You're already getting a red flag. There's a Jew named Ptolemaeus. Why is well, it didn't say Jew. It just said a guy named Ptolemaeus. That's a red flag. It doesn't give you specifics as to if he's in Hebrew or not. But remember, all throughout the book of Maccabees, first and second, the guys who changed their names from Hebrew to Greek, most of the time those guys were off. Remember Jason? Jason was that first high priest that changed his name from Onias to Jason. And those guys were pro-Greek guys when they changed their name. So this is a theme all throughout the scriptures that their mama called him Cash Clay. But they changed their name to Muhammad Ali. Okay? It's the same. Their mama called him Onias, and they changed their name to Jason. Those are red flags. So let's continue.
Verse 11. Moreover, in the plain of Jericho was Ptolemaeus, the son of Abubus, made captain, and he had abundance of silver and gold.
How do you get your abundance of silver or gold most of the time? You're put in positions to do deals that can be unsavory. You're put in positions to do deals that can harm you. Okay? That can harm other people, not you. Harm your spirit, but other people lose out a lot of times when you pursue your own financial advances. So let's continue.
Verse 12. For he was the high priest's son-in-law.
So this guy Abubus was the high priest, Simon's son-in-law. So this guy Ptolemy married his daughter. So once again, it doesn't give you details as to what happened, what this guy's political affiliation is, what this guy's nation is. But now there's a guy who married Simon's daughter, and he had power and influence in the region. Read on.
Verse 13. Wherefore, his heart being lifted up.
No, before we go any further, about the lifted up heart. This is even in the Wikipedia. It says Ptolemy, son of Abubus. It says the son-in-law of Jewish leader Simon Maccabeus, or Simon Thassi, was not Greek. Okay, he might not have been Greek. He was of Semitic, likely Jewish, or Idumean origin. So this throws a big monkey wrench into things. He could have been a Jew he could have been a sellout Jew that's living like Greek, or he could be an Edomite that called himself Ptolemaeus, that called himself Ptolemy. He might not have been Greek, but he could have been an Edomite. Same damn thing. What difference is Spanish Edomite or Greek Edomite, besides it's an Edomite? Or American Edomite? What's the difference? So, what they're letting you know is this decision that Simon chose to sit back here and marry his daughter off to a guy that had political power, financial stability might not be the best move in general if he was a nation. Now, what's the scripture say about marrying off your daughter? Can somebody give it to me? It's a weighty matter. The word is weighty. It's definitely weighty. I'm just trying to.
Ecclesiastes 7:25.
Yep. Ecclesiastes 7:25.
Time.
Read that cry, please.
Time. Ecclesiastes chapter 7 and verse 25. Marry thy daughter, and so shalt thou have performed a weighty matter.
Listen, it's a weighty matter to sit back here and marry off your daughter. There's a lot of things a man has to consider. A lot of things a person has to be conscious of when you are choosing the right husband for your daughter. Read on.
But give her to a man of understanding.
Now, the thinking would be, if I'm looking at it from Simon's perspective, maybe he was looking for her financial stability. And if he married her, his daughter off to this guy, she'd be stable economically, wouldn't have to suffer. But as we continue to read on, did he have spiritual understanding? Did he have a moral code? What kind of guy was he? Just because he was economically stable doesn't mean he was the right spiritual fit for her. So there's a lot of things you have to consider. But Most High is like, you still have to make sure that daughter goes to a man that has understanding of the book and can guide and develop her spirit, and that should be number one. Which means that man has to be a man of principle, at the very least, in order for this union to possibly survive. So just keep that in mind as we continue on in the topic, because this guy might have checked a couple boxes, but as we read about what this guy does, he didn't really check all the boxes. So now, and it says name origin, while his name Ptolemy is Greek and heavily associated with Macedonian and Greek rulers of Egypt, it is very common across Levant during this era. But once again, the name does explain a lot. The name also kind of shows a man or family that's given to the times. And this is the challenging thing when you're also choosing a wife or developing men. A person can be getting taught the scriptures, but are they fixated on keeping the spiritual traditions and keeping the traditions of their forefathers? Or are they taking the knowledge and trying to institute it in modern times? That is significant, because it will determine, or kind of gives you an idea of that man's spiritual stability and that man's backbone and that man's integrity. There's certain things about serving the Most High that are just non-negotiable. They're just non-negotiable stances and positions you have to take to please the Most High. Other things you can make adjustments to, temperament-wise, but scriptural, spiritual disposition has to be at the forefront of your mind. So you got guys that are calling themselves Greeks and all this scenario. It's really, they're already jumping out the gate behind. And then you got to sit back. How humble is this person? How willing are they to sit back and be reinstituted into the right way of looking at things? People forget Israel is stable now, but just a few maybe a generation ago, everything was turned upside down, and everybody was repping Greek. Everybody was repping a change and a different societal influence being king. You had a handful of men, a father and his sons, who kept their spiritual stance more quote unquote old school. And that old school stance is what revived the kingdom. Now you got some new, at the very least, this guy Ptolemy is an Israelite, new school thinker. At the very least, he might not be an Edomite. He might not. He might be a new school thinker who has a lot of economic and political ties. Then the question is this: do you want some square, block-headed Republican to marry your daughter? That's really not pro the book, but got bread? Is that the better choice? Or do you sit back here and push her to a man that might not be economically stable, but is more fixated on serving the Lord and being more tied into the older tradition? These are the things that a man has to be conscious of. The stable play might not be the spiritual play. So once again, this guy Ptolemy may be an Edomite. Simon's son-in-law might be an Edomite, or he could be an Israelite that's pro-Greek, that's political, because listen, if he's got money, he's tied in with these Greeks.
A lot of time when you look at our people, anytime we get money, we're usually whitewashed.
Good.
We're whitewashed and we're acceptance of alternative thought process.
And our spiritual moral line is more gray. How else can you get paid and operate and make so much money and be so thriving financially? So either Ptolemy was an Edomite or he was an Israelite that was motivated and operating like a Greek. Either way, that is a recipe for disaster. Because ultimately, your son-in-law, you would hope and pray that your son-in-law has some kind of spiritual integrity that will tether him to pleasing the Most High and choosing the Most High over themselves. You're hoping and praying that's the case.
Especially in the Greek. We're still in the Greek Empire.
That's what I'm saying. And everybody is pushing Greek.
And during the Greek Empire, it was heavy classism. It was heavy classism. They had classism, and they had individuals that were set up as so-called medics. If you were classified as a medic in the Greek society, you weren't given the authority to participate in particular deities, celebrations, services, and hold certain positions amongst the Greek Empire if you were classified as a medic, which is a regular civilian or poor, on the lower scale of the poor class. So, and if you were given opportunity to become a citizen, that usually means you had to go fight in the military, and then you would receive citizenship where you could serve the temple of Dionysus or go to the festivals of Dionysus or participate in post office jobs. So if you had to give yourself to the culture, and then you could elevate yourself in the status of the Greek society.
So at the very least, this guy Ptolemy was given to the Greeks of society and maybe flirted with holding on to the law. Because wasn't that what we'll go into it in a little bit. But this was the issue that we had with the Tobias.
Yeah.
The Tobias followed the law. The Tobias couldn't have been able to operate with the Jews if they didn't follow the Ten Commandments and didn't eat pork. That didn't mean that they weren't pushing the intermingling of the nation into society.
Especially Menelaus.
That's the Menelaus, Jason. The whole movement played with keeping the law, but still pushed Greek ways. So this is the issue. This is part of the battle that the Jew back then, they were always facing. Are we going to keep the spiritual, traditional ways of what a Jew is supposed to be? Or are we going to start relaxing the spiritual and philosophical ways to more adjust to society as it is today? This is the battle our children face. Don't our children sit back and look at us and say, you guys are hard as hell. It don't gotta be that way. It's overboard. You guys are extreme this, extreme that. Everything is a dress. Everything is a head wrap. No skin is showing. No nothing is showing. I can't even live my life at all. And then that pressure or for the next generation to sit back and make a decision. Am I going to keep the traditions the same, or am I going to start laxing on the restraints in my life and in my children's life? This is the issue that continues to plague and attack Israel, and it continues to plague and attack Israel back then. All the good work Simon did, now you got this son-in-law marry your daughter, and he's smiling in your face, and he got bread in his pocket. He can pay a dowry. What kind of spirit does this guy have? What is he going to teach his woman? What is he going to instill in his wife? Or is he just taking this daughter for a political position? You don't think that was a real thing back in those days? You don't think that's a thing now? So there's a lot of questions about who this guy is. And it doesn't look like Simon was really focused on that.
And one way to make money, to accumulate wealth, that became popularized in the Greek Empire was tax farming.
Yeah.
Tax farming could have been the method of how he got paid.
But tax farming, there is a lot of corruption in tax farming. There's a lot of sidewinding deals you're doing with the nations in order to tax farm. You're not only your tax farming, you're getting closer to King to get sweetheart deals from him to make money on the side. So, but once again, there's a lot of shadiness that can happen in this process. So, I'm just laying the backdrop for what's about to happen. The one thing that we see is this man's character, you just don't know when you got a guy operating pro-Greek. And Simon doesn't know. And Simon's just sitting back here getting older in his age, and he's not really, it's one thing, I think all of us can be victims of this, to fight your own battle, to stay on top of yourself, and to know morally and ethically what you have to be. It's another thing to gauge and measure how much you should push your children into being what you are. And there's limits to it. There's limits to how much you can push the next generation to want to serve the Most High and to take the Lord serious. So that's another aspect to be conscious of. I'm not just trying to knock Simon, but it comes off like a little negligence, a little bit of maybe the daughter wanted a better life. Whatever it is, I'm not trying to look too deep into it because we're not supposed to look too deep into scenarios like this. But when you hear what happens, you have to look a little deeper into it. So, Ptolemy, son of Abubis, this guy is, that Esau says Semitic, but just because you live in a region don't make you Semitic. But that's how Esau writes in his information. This guy could be an Israelite or an Edomite. The Israelite is pro-Greek, or the Edomite is pro-Greek. So, let's continue. Verse 13.
Verse 13. Wherefore, his heart being lifted up, he thought to get the country to himself.
So listen, this guy obviously was known to make money, and he had gold and silver. So a person with a lot of gold and silver is one word. Starts with an A. Ambitious. He was already ambitious. But a lot of times, the ambitious one isn't settled with just having enough. The ambitious guy always wants what? Wants more. So now this guy has the leader of Israel's daughter. He's got money. He's got a name. He's got the east part of Israel on lock. Now he wants more. Now his aspirations go beyond just being stable. Now this guy wants the kingdom. Now this guy, I'm told him, wants more power, and he wants to run the entire region and take out Simon, his father-in-law. Read on.
Wherefore, his heart being lifted up, he thought to get the country to himself, and thereupon consulted deceitfully against Simon and his sons to destroy them.
Now what we're going to do is hold this and go to Nehemiah 13, verse 1 through 11. And we're going to go into when something similar, the beginnings of something similar happened in during the time of Nehemiah. Okay? Go to Nehemiah 13, verse 1 through 11.
Nehemiah chapter 13 and verse 1. On that day, they read in the book of Moses in the audience of the people, and therein was found written that the Ammonite and the Moabite should not come into the congregation of the Most High forever.
So these two nations that are non-Israelites shouldn't be in the congregation of the Most High forever. The nation should never be around the Israelites. They shouldn't be congregating, working with them, dealing with them at all. Read on.
Because they met not the children of Israel with bread and with water, but hired Balaam against them, that he should curse them. Howbeit our power turned the curse into a blessing. Now it came to pass, when they had heard the law, that they separated from Israel all the mixed multitude.
So once again, when Ezra came back from Babylon to Israel, one of the first things they had to do was separate the nations again, because there was too much intermingling, and it was too much of a culture war to reestablish Israel once we were separated in Babylon. Ezra understood what Moses and the Most High understood in Deuteronomy 7. But all the mixing of influences weakens the spiritual culture. No different than the mixing of influences during the time of Simon mixes the spiritual culture. And there's no love and allegiance to the sanctity and the protection of the nation. This guy told me didn't give two you-know-whats about the stability of the nation, about the spiritual stability of the nation. This guy's desire for more power, did he even consider that the nation could fall apart and we could sit back here and fall back into spiritual and political slavery again? He didn't care at all what could possibly happen to the nation in this power grab. It lets you know a lot about his character. And it gives off Edomite vibes or heavy sellout vibes. So, but once again, I'm going to Nehemiah 13 because it was so important for us not to forget history. And history will tell you that when Israel is if they want to maintain their solidarity and strength, they have to keep these influences away from the body of Christ. It's already hard enough to maintain unity amongst ourselves. When you add other nations in the mix, it just weakens the pot. Yeah. So let's continue.
Verse 4. And before this, Eliashib, the priest, having the oversight of the chamber of the house of our power, was allied unto Tobiah.
So this lets you know the high priest said before the Bible was written, before the Bible was read to the public, the high priest, who should be reading the Bible every damn day, didn't know he wasn't supposed to sit back and deal with these animals. Or he knew and he didn't care. Yeah. So the high priest at the time was allied with Tobiah. And as we know, hold this, go to Nehemiah 2 and 10. We want to make sure we explain who Tobias is.
Nehemiah chapter 2 and verse 10. When Sanballat the Horonite and Tobiah the servant, the Ammonite, heard of it, it grieved them exceedingly that there was come a man to seek the welfare of the children of Israel.
So this guy Tobiah, which was the servant of the head governor of the region, Sanballat, when they found out that Nehemiah was sent down by the Persian king to reset up the affairs of the Jews, Tobiah and Sanballat were very upset that an Israelite came down to look after his own people. Why would they be upset? Why would Tobiah, an Ammonite, have a problem with Nehemiah coming down to look after his people? Unless the Tobiah had their hand already in managing the people. these Ammonites already had their hand in running the kingdom. Why else would you be mad that a guy comes in and helps their nation? Unless you were doing side deals with them from the beginning. And as you read Nehemiah, if you remember, the people kept saying, oh yeah, the Tobias are cool, man. They've been sending letters to us this entire time. You want to help? They just wanted to make sure everything's okay. Remember that? That was when the nations were threatening to kill Nehemiah. They were sending letters saying, we're going to kill you. We're going to sit back and send goons to take you out. While sending letters to the Jews in the city. And the leaders of the city were gullible enough to read them and keep corresponding and giving them intel about what's going on. This is the crazy thing about our people. We're transparent and trustworthy to the nations, and we don't trust our people for nothing.
Yeah.
That's what it shows. We will sit back here and tell a white man the whole story. It was him, Jan. But when it comes to sitting back here with our people, there's no trust. There's skepticism, there's envy, and there's maliciousness. When it comes to eat them out with a smile on his face or a nation, we just sit back here and just we're open and trustworthy. Yeah. Not realizing we should be operating opposite of that. So, with that being the case, Nehemiah 2 and 10 already explains that the Tobias are not our friends, they're our enemies. But then the high priest of the nation is doing deals with Tobias. And these deals that were being done with the Tobias kept happening. And that infiltration of the nations with the Jews is what ended up spoiling us with the Greeks after Alexander came into power. It was that same element of allowing these pro-Greek new school thinking in the Israelite culture, which led to our downfall. And it's about to open the door to lead to our downfall again. The same things keep happening over and over and over again, and it kills us. The biggest fear I have is, can the next generation keep it up? Can the next generation maintain the intensity, the selflessness, and the program? Or is ambition, fear, thinking that you have to reinvent the wheel, is that going to be the next generation's decision? And you just don't know. You hope and pray that the next generation or the next two generations have the capacity to know what things you don't change and what things can use tweaking. Because this is the issue. You're going to find out whether it's Simon, John Hyrcanus, his son Aristobulus, and then John Hyrcanus II. All these people have choices to make. One, what standard am I going to keep? Am I going to keep the same standard that created success? Or am I going to change things up? Or what kind of people am I going to have around me that are my advisors? These are very important questions.
Yeah, I want to get a scripture on
Yes,
that too. Ecclesiastes chapter 27, verse 1 and 2. Because there's always going to be a fear. If it's just about the priesthood, you have to watch out for infiltration of the priesthood. But when you start to do deals and you start to negotiate and you start to open yourself up for business relationships with other people, you always got to consider, will there be a compromise?
Yep.
Read that, Ecclesiastes 27, 1 and 2.
Ecclesiastes chapter 27 and verse 1. Many have sinned for a small matter.
And the compromise is, it doesn't, the scripture is saying that it don't take much to get our people to compromise. Right. We don't really have too strong of spiritual integrity as a people. It doesn't take a lot for us to sin and to give up our strength and stay focused on the Most High. Read that again.
Ecclesiastes 27 and 1. Many have sinned for a small matter.
Read on.
And he that seeketh for an abundance.
And if anybody is ambitious, for those that does have ambition, with ambition comes what? Read on.
And he that seeketh for an abundance will turn his eyes away.
Meaning he'll turn his eyes away from discipline. He'll turn his eyes away from
waiting.
morality. He'll turn his eyes away from ethics.
From waiting.
Yeah, but when you got somebody that's ambitious, what won't they do to accomplish their goal? What won't they give up? What won't they compromise?
But this is the problem. You want ambition, but ambition has to be tapered and under control. And that's what's very hard to quantify, especially in leadership. You want somebody who's going to push things forward. But then, can you push things forward spiritually and wait for the other things to fall in your lap and work out?
Yeah.
That mix is a challenge. We're going to read about Jeroboam. Jeroboam was industrious. Jeroboam wanted to advance the kingdom, and he had a lot of characteristics that could have pushed Israel, the northern kingdom, forward. But what did he do? His ambition went beyond just spiritual adjustments. His ambition went to idolatry. No different than Solomon's ambition. Listen, if you're going to sit back and micro break down why Solomon fell, why did Solomon fall? Because things fell apart after the major responsibility of building the house of the Lord was complete. Once that major project was completed, was the end of his spiritual situation. Because then he wanted something else. Just serving the Most High and living out his days in peace wasn't enough. Then he sat back and tapped to the women, which happened to the idols, which happened to the false. But what was the root? What he had and what he accomplished wasn't enough. When you read Ecclesiastes in the Bible, you could tell by the writing he was an older man. Because he worried about his son Rehoboam. It was almost like he knew Rehoboam was going to screw things up. He knew Rehoboam wasn't going to lead right. He also sat back here and constantly talked about, what's the word, Award? Everything is vain. All the stuff you do under the earth, all the work and all the things you do is vain, unless you love the Most High. Because you're spinning your wheels doing this and this and this and this, and what are you getting out? And what are you getting out of the thing was what made him go left. He just couldn't be okay with living right, serving the Most High, living and breathing and moving forward. He wanted more. The ambition that Solomon saw in Jeroboam led both of them to their failures. But then what do you ask for? What do you want? You want an ambitious person that can wait, that can serve, do great works, and wait for the Most High to open the door for the next venture. Because so much of what we experience and what we've tried to do in the work, you push and you push and you push and you push, and the Most High says, stop. You're going to have to sit in place until I tell you it's time to go to the next move. Am I right or wrong? We're constantly in this push and pull, run in place scenario. It's almost like you have to be in a constant state of running in place till the Most High lets you take 7 steps forward. Then it will stop you again. You ever see like Star Wars #1 when you had Obi-Wan and it was Qui-Gon. They were fighting Darth Maul, and they had to keep going through these little spaces where there was little not shields but like little walls. The doors were shutting on them, but you can see what was going on, and you had to sit here and wait until the lever lifted up. Then you sprint it, and then another one closed on you. Then you're sitting here waiting, and then it lifts up again, and you go into the fight. That's literally what it is serving the Most High. How do you act when you're waiting? Can you be ready to go when the Most High opens the door? But you have to be ready and waiting in an act of operating until the Most High opens the door. But can a man live his life in that perpetual state? I'm running in place until the Most High lifts up the door for me to actually move forward. An ambitious person doesn't like that. An overly ambitious person can't sit there and wait. He has to find some mechanism to get through here without having to wait. And that's what determines, can the ambitious person still serve the Most High? Or is the ambitious person going to compromise right from wrong and break the law in his pursuit to get what he wants? And that's what can't be measured. This is why it's so hard to know what the next generation is going to do. You don't know if they're going to be industrious and patient, or they're going to be slothful and not try for nothing. Because the slothful person, the whole house falls apart. So you can't be lazy. You can't be overly ambitious. But you got to hurry up and learn to hurry up and wait. Hurry up and be disciplined. Hurry up and stay in order. And that is what eats men up.
And that's why Solomon called it vanity. Like, why go so hard in your life just to leave everything you built to the next generation that might dissolve what you built in 20 years?
But maybe he saw your bad habits, and he likes your bad habits more than the good habits you have. Maybe he was good, Solomon, before he was born. And he saw you run the streets when he was a kid. So he never saw the good version of it. Maybe that's why it's been. Maybe that was part of the curse. I guess what I'm trying to say is, as much as when we read about Simon and what happens to him, we can play armchair quarterback, Monday morning quarterback, and say, man, Simon should have did this and did that. But bro, even in marriage, you want your daughter to be with somebody who is progressively thinking, who wants to sit back here and push to grow. But at what cost? How do you know if that proactiveness is going to be the ruin of it? And your daughter. How do you know? You want to sit back there and deal with some hothead out? That's a couch surfer? You want that? You don't want that either.
Or alcoholic?
Or some drunk? You don't want that. So it's almost like everything is based upon the Most High's love and mercy towards us, and you make the best decisions that's ahead of you. But what is a fact is, what a red line has to be is these nations intermingling in the direction the Most High is taking the school, the church, the camp, the household, or the person who's operating pro-Greek, whether you're an Israelite or not. That is a red flag in leadership. That's something you can't put up and represent the body if his heart is split between the old ways and these progressive new ways. The person that's taking leadership has to have a willingness to preserve the old way. Because without that willingness, you're going to run your camp or your school or your family to the ground. Shekoyah might not be the answer, but holding on to the old way has to be the one thing you're looking for when you're determining pairing of marriage, a pairing of leaders, and what this person should run this location. But does this person want to keep the old way? Not just the financial money behind it.
Yeah.
The decision making. What kind of mindset is it? Because every single time we get stable, we shoot ourselves in the foot, bringing these outside influences, whether literally foreigners or Israelites that are foreign-minded, end up crippling us from the inside. And we end up rotting from the inside.
And it goes back to every camp has to make a decision on an individual basis also, how you choose to sustain your camp financially. You know, because you don't just, it's especially if you're in a church, if you got a school, a camp, and you're not sucking the congregants dry of their finances. Like Paul said, he works with his own hands. And if you have a camp that works with their own hands, you got to consider what is it that you're going to do as a camp financially to sustain yourself, where you're not going to compromise your spiritual integrity. Every camp has to make that decision. For example, I remember when these Creighton X and these the medical marijuana, what do you call it? CBD. When you got when the CBD craze hit, I remember we had guys that would say, "Man, listen, we will front you guys since you guys already have a business in the mall. We'll front you guys all unlimited quantities of CBD, and then and it's not illegal because it's legalized. It's this, and then but all business ain't good business. All money ain't good money. Just because the government says legal, they legalize cigarettes. So we're supposed to sell cigarettes to our people because it's legal. So, but although these opportunities come our way all the time, if you don't have spiritual integrity, you have an Israelite camp of CBD sellers.
And then you start making money.
Yeah.
And then what? Then you'll think that gain is godliness.
Then you think gain is godliness.
Then you think the Spirit's with you. But what did how many notches did you lose spiritually to temporarily get yourself out of the red? Because that was a fad business. Then it got oversaturated.
But we had all these fad businesses that came our way that we could have opened the door for, all the way back from noni juice to selling Protanif, to selling USANA, to selling whatever pyramid scheme was out there,
or
came across our radar.
Or the big one a lot of times is the deal that can cover a couple people. That's always that alluring one where, hey, a couple of you guys can make some money if you take camp resources and funnel it so a handful of people can come up. That's always the one that's the red flag. Are you going to make a move that'll cover two people and everybody else suffer? How's the Most High going to look at that?
Yeah.
If the majority of the camp can't benefit from it, then why are you doing it? Because that's the thing that tethers us to the bottom. A lot of us want to make moves that will get us out of a major pinch, but also keep everybody else in poverty. Those are the moves that Most High is checking you on the packet. And it's almost like it's better to run in place and make business decisions that cover the body. It's just running and doing a side move that can benefit 2 or 3 people, but the body suffers. Once again, this is still in that realm of ambition. And how much do you want it? And is it good? Is it a good blessing and endeavor if the camp can't grow from it? The answer is no. And those are those old school spiritual standards you can never lift off of. Or you don't want to put in charge a person who's quick to get that quick hit and sacrifice the body and the integrity of the program in the midst of it. These are the things you have to sit a person down and explain to them so they can understand there are boundaries that we all have in this realm. People will sit back and say, man, that doesn't make great financial sense. Well, shit, it does if you're considering you have to make moves that only benefit the body. But when you're dealing with these Tobiats that you're reading in Nehemiah 13, and you're dealing with this guy that's pro-breach, does he really care about making sure that the moves, the business decisions benefit the nation only? Or are they focused on benefiting for themselves? Because when Simon made moves to sit back here and elevate Israel's GDP, the nation's GDP, not their own personal, line their personal pockets, like Jason, Menelaus, and this guy Tony was trying to do. They were benefiting their own pockets by bringing gymnasiums in, by bringing Greek businesses in. They were getting a cut of the profits. All money isn't good money, like Shamsa once said. Can you sit back and open a port so your export business can inflate? That's something the nation can benefit. It's just understanding how you have to think. But once again, if Simon is choosing this guy, told me, how close did he keep him? How much did he know about this guy? What kind of spirit did he have? You just don't know. It's not an unanswered question. And as we continue in the class, you'll start seeing how the Most High, what men did after these situations happened to show you there was some, at the very least, negligence going on right now.
And one thing you do know, Read that verse 2 and it
Yeah,
comes down to 27. Well, this one thing that you can guarantee anytime you open up yourselves to new markets, new business opportunities. Read.
Ecclesiastes chapter 27 and verse 2. As a nail sticketh fast between the joinings of the stones.
Just like you hammer a nail right into a brick wall and it's going to be locked in. He says the same way a nail is locked into a brick wall. Read on.
So doth sin stick close between buying and selling.
And if you open up yourself to a new business, know that sin is not too far away. Because what you're going to have to ask yourself is, the sin is, what am I going to have to compromise in order to gain?
Yep.
Because there's a compromise and a trade-off, and everything there's a trade-off.
Yep.
And everything there's a compromise or trade-off. You got to ask yourself, am I going to sacrifice spiritually there's something spiritually going to lose in order for us to gain this new business venture or new opportunity? Every leader, every church has to ask themselves, every camp, every school has to ask themselves that question.
Yep.
That's it.
Read verse 3. It fits perfectly what you're saying. Keep going.
Verse 3.
And after this, you got to head out. Good one.
Verse 3. Unless a man hold himself diligently in the fear of the Most High.
It's tied into verse 2. Because that buying and selling is going to sit back here and make you really sit back and choose where your allegiances are. You better fear the Lord versus going for these money grabs. Because all money isn't good money. And if I pursue this business endeavor, what are we going to lose spiritually in the process of that pursuit? Those things have to be constantly in the forefront of your mind. Read on to, if you don't fear the Lord in your business endeavors, your home decisions, your life choices. Read on.
His house shall soon be overthrown.
I will turn over your house, turn over your stability, because you stuck your neck out on an endeavor that you weren't supposed to.
Even for us, we're in the transportation industry. We have opportunities that come across our way where we could set up drivers, but they would have to drive to other states. Now, you would have a man that say he's 3 days away. How often is he going to get the Bible?
Yep.
How often is he going to get class? He's a week away from the school.
Another one is we had opportunities many years ago to run our transportation fleet late night runs.
Yep.
That would have been a little bit less taxing on the body, but you're working from like 8, 9 p.m. I would say 9 p.m., 9, 10 p.m. all the way to like 6 in the morning. So then the question is this: if that's your schedule, are you going to be in class? If you're running night owl runs, you're not going to be able to run these night owl runs and come to class. So you have to shoot it down. So you trade off an easier job that pays solid for a harder job so that people can stay in the book and stay spiritually strong. Because what is the priority of the path we're taking? The comfortable path that disconnects the Bible, or the harder path that keeps you tethered to the scriptures?
And on an individual basis, if you're a husband and you got a wife, you're gonna constantly be having to consider taking jobs that's gonna allow your wife, your rib, to be available for the kids. Or is there some money? Are you gonna be financially stable, or and she be disconnected from house duties
And the Bible?
and detached from the family and the kids? And are you ready to make that kind of sacrifice just for some a $5 bonus on increase on the check?
$5 an hour.
$5 an hour, or you take a lesser job so she can be available for the kids, available for the house, available for class. Those type of decisions you're gonna have to make constantly, even in your own homes. What spiritually makes more sense versus financial sense? And everybody has to make that decision. It's not just for Simon. Everybody in everybody's household got to make that decision.
And as we've seen throughout history, we're going to go back to Nehemiah 13 now. We constantly, finish that verse off in
27:3.
Yeah, 27:3. No, we did it. Yeah. We did. We're going to go back to Nehemiah 13 after we salute you in.
Okay.
Tahawam Rakha, Shah Shabata, Bana Shah, Baya Shah.
Tharan Makah, Shal Shata, Bon Shaw, Baya Shaw, Amaj, Rock, Yahweh Hashem Yashabakata.
Yahweh Shem Yashar Katam.
So let's get Nehemiah 13 and verse 4.
Nehemiah chapter 13 and verse 4. And before this, Eliashib, the priest, having the oversight of the chamber of the house of our power, was allied unto Tobiah.
Mm-hmm.
And he had prepared for him a great chamber, where aforetime they laid the meat offering, the frankincense, and the vessels, and the tithes of corn, the new wine, and the oil.
So listen, this area was big enough to hold all the meat offerings, all of the sacrifices that go to the Most High. This was a storage unit on site of the temple that Eliashib rented out or gave to Tobiah so he can run business in the temple. Because once again, what's the benefit of Tobias being on temple grounds and everybody sees he got a box seat? He had a box seat in the temple. What does that do? It earns you political connections. It earns you access to everything going on in the city. And it opens up business doors, business more. Everybody else is in the temple or in the court of the temple, talking about the Most High and counsel and solutions and spiritual solutions. What's Tobiah doing when everybody's there? Making money. Listen, what is the purpose of being a member of the Chamber of Commerce? Does anybody know about Chamber of Commerce? There's Chamber of Commerce North, Chamber of Commerce East, Chamber of Commerce Northwest. What was that name of the company? I don't know if I still have it. Remember when we were talking to that, he was a Filipino guy, and he was trying to get us to switch the land out from one place to another. And he was trying to get us to get rid of the property we had and trade it off to some bum property in the far outskirts on the northwest side near England. Remember the guy?
Yeah, I remember.
Remember he told us that he gave us a number to a company, and I think it was like a $5,000 to $10,000 buy-in. You had to spend $10,000.
These are investment groups.
You had to spend $10,000 up front so you can gain access to a club of people who made money, who had connections to where the city was going.
Yep.
They knew they knew a couple friends that was going to buy the property over here, and they needed some investors. So you paid like $10,000 up front so you can have access to people who are movers and shakers in the city, who can give you access to bigger, better financial deals. It's no different than what the Chamber of Commerce is. You go around people who make money and who know where the money is going, what part of the city the money is going to. This is what people that are in the loop do. They congregate around people who make money, and they say, hey, man, me and my buddy over here, Chad, we're going to sit back here and put money into an apartment complex. We need 2 more investors. Do you have $50,000 we can put on it? Cool, let's go do it. Now, you got 50. Now we can put 4 men to go build this project, and we'll split the profits 4 ways. That was the benefit of investing into that direction.
And the objective was to not tie your money up for a long time.
Yeah.
Because you would get paid out immediately. Once the building was constructed or the complex was constructed, you would see dividends immediately coming back and residual profits coming back immediately.
You'll see residual profits and or 5 or 10 years of selling it.
They'll sell it, flip it.
And then you get your cut and everybody's good. So once again, that's what was happening on the temple court scenarios. Tobias was sitting back here paying for political influence amongst all the elites in Jerusalem. So he had access to the money. So he was brokering deals through the Israelites who made money at the time. That was the purpose of him being there. But you have to sit back here and pay for the spot to do the business deals in. He wasn't sleeping there. What was he doing? Okay, let's come into my office and we'll talk business. We'll talk how to make some money. and he had access into making money and political deals, and he was drawing all the Jews' money and their resources to him. So he would take his profits and send them where? To his country and empire. He was making money for his people by exploiting us. When you sit back here and you see all the hair salons in the black neighborhood, is that money going back to the hood? That money's going back to China or India,
Korea.
or Korea. That's why, listen, if you ever want to get access to the hair salon business, you better know fluent Korean. You better know some fluent Korean, and you better pass as Korean, because they are not letting black people have access to hair and all the little salon, little secrets that make their people money. You ain't getting in. Or if once they find out you're who you are, they rack up the prices so you can't make a profit to discourage you from the business. And that's the fact.
And if you don't speak their language, that's the first red flag.
You better be fluent, and you better have the accent. What part of South Korea you from? You better be from the Hongdong district. You better know. You better go there and learn it.
Where the hair products come from.
You better learn. You better know how to talk that talk.
We had a sister that was managing a very large wig shop in Miami that we were going to put our products in the store on near the counter. But I had asked her. I said, "Well, why don't you go open up your own independent, wig and weave salon?" She said, "Because she said I can make the order." She said, "But I can't. But I have to do it under somebody else's name and contract. Because as soon as they find out that I don't speak the language, they hang up the phone on me."
Yep.
But the only reason her boss, who was Filipino, was able to contact Korea is because the Filipino woman's boss is Korean. The husband's Korean. So even the wife is using the husband's affiliation with Korea to order products. But as soon as she does it, try to do it independently on her own, immediately they hang the phone up. That conversation is over. They don't want to talk about nothing. You have nothing to talk about. So all she can do at best is just be a manager of a hair salon. I mean, a hair wig and weave shop in Miami. That's all. That's about as high of a position as she'll ever get, regardless of her experience, her years. She went to school for hair. She went to school for business management. But as high as she can get is just managing somebody else's store of another nation.
But this is what the Tobias were doing during time of Nehemiah. And this is what those pro-Ptolemaic people were instituting in Jerusalem. And this is what Israel was trying to fight off. That foreign influence, whether it's literal foreigners or it's Israelites who are going to sell their people out to make a buck and be that middleman for the foreigner. Eliashib, the high priest, sold out his people so that Tobias can have access to Israel and do sideways deals and cut business deals that Eliashib was going to sit back here and benefit from.
And yet now you have no control over the products that you use on a daily basis.
So for things that we could have been sitting back here and internally creating for our people, we just lost our political sovereignty. This is what countries all around the world are fighting to establish when they're dealing with these wars and they're fighting. They're dealing with their political sovereignty. Are you going to give us the ability to make our own product, use our own natural resource to benefit our own people?
And that's what they do in Africa when they keep everybody economically hostage. When now the only way we'll do business with you is if you give us rights to your land, the mineral rights. These European countries, they want mineral rights. They want gold. They want palladium. They want uranium. They want the diamonds. They want the oil. Now, if you don't let us have rights to those and give us contracts to that minerals, then we're not going to trade with you with any of your products.
Oh, it's a couple things. Listen, what good is having access to these minerals if you don't have our machinery?
Right.
Yep.
That's the catch. You don't have our machinery. You don't have the capacity to manufacture what you got. And that's what Esau's leverage is. So we're going to bring in our machinery and our manufacturing capacity. And you're going to give us the lease to the property. So we'll give you a cut of the money we make. But we're going to have access in the leases to the actual mines. And we're going to manufacture it. And we're going to ship it to our people. And this, part of the contract that you're still in. That's one thing. Then it's okay. If you need a loan, if you need a bank loan, because your country is struggling, we will give you a bank loan. But this is the cost of the bank loan. You can't grow crops in our country, in your country. You can't grow grain. You can't grow fruit. You got to buy grain from Poland. Why in the hell would a country in Africa that can make their own grain buy grain in Poland? Because that's the hustle. We have to keep you needy. And we're not going to allow you to be independent on any level. You know what's crazy? I was listening about Burkina Faso, about a couple weeks ago, about how the country is proud of Ibrahim Traore because Ibrahim Traore found a way to build a tomato processing plant in Burkina Faso. And you would say that's praiseworthy action, is just to get a tomato processing plant. It is for a country who can't manufacture anything. So what they did is they found a way to mass produce tomatoes and be able to manufacture and can the tomato paste and sell it to Ghana. And as trivial and as low level as that would come off to Americans, it's major out there because Europe has not allowed African countries to have any manufacturing capacity of their own. And that's how you know what a slave state looks like. You don't have the capacity to do anything on your own.
Yeah, or it's called a banana republic.
Huh? Slave state, banana republic. You got to sit back and buy everything from other countries. And you stay broke and you stay dependent.
And you don't have any control over your homegrown crops or products.
Huh?
Well, now recently, as of the last week, Traore has just denounced France altogether and broken off any and all alliances with France. So now
they keep trying to kill him.
they're trying to kill him
Constantly.
So now which that might spark another revolution of some sort.
Well, they're going to keep trying to, listen, they're going to keep trying to kill the guy.
Yeah.
And what's going to be messed up is if and when they do it, they're going to shut down the manufacturing plant and they're going to stop all the production of fruits and vegetables that they're doing.
Yeah, because he's doing the same thing with mangoes.
Yeah, and all kind of fruits.
Yeah.
And they're trying to create a dam and a man-made manufactured water source right near the Sahara Desert. Because Burkina Faso was 100 miles from the Sahara.
And they found water recently too. He just drilled and found water underground, under the desert.
And there you go. And now they're going to try to use that water to create access. They can grow more crops. And if they do that, they become more independent. You don't need any European nation at that particular point. Well, I hope he can keep doing it. Because where it looks like the East is like, no, we can't let this happen because the other countries are going to sit back and figure it out too. So we got to break it. But once again, this is what happens when you bring foreigners in. The Tobias was getting a foothold on the business transaction of the nation, and it was ruining the company from the inside. So what happens is the Tobias are bringing the money. The Jews are going to come in here, fighting their tails off to sell their people out to get a dollar. That was happening then. It's happening now. And that whole movement was about to happen with Simon. And this guy told me that's what he was trying to do. And we're going to read about that in a second. So let's continue in Nehemiah 13.
Nehemiah chapter 13 and verse 5. And he had prepared for him a great chamber, where aforetime they laid the meat offering, the frankincense, and the vessel, and the tithes of the corn, the new wine, and the oil, which was commanded to be given to the Levites, and the singers, and the porters, the offerings of the priests. But all this time was not I at Jerusalem. For in the 213th year of Artaxerxes, king of Babylon, came I unto the king. And after certain days obtained I leave of the king.
So what he's saying is, when all this crap happened, he had already left to go back to serve his king. Then he had leave to come back and check on the progress of the nation. And as he's realizing, everybody went backwards 2 or 3 steps once that strong spiritual presence left. Read on.
Verse 7. And I came to Jerusalem and understood of the evil that Eliashib did for Tobiah in preparing him a chamber in the courts of the house of the Most High.
Because the high priest is supposed to be the one that looks out for the spirit of the nation, the stability of the nation. This guy lets this guy come in here for a price. He bribes Eliashib so he can have access to all the commerce and trade, and it creates a den of wolves. It creates a bunch of vipers in the nation. Now everybody's fighting and jockeying for financial gain. Financial personal gain, and then it just destroys the nation from within. This is why it's so important in any leadership position not to let foreign presence to come around and spoil the nation, because Tobias doesn't give a damn about the spiritual decline of the people. Neither does Ptolemy or any pro-Greek person, whether you're a Jew or not. They don't care about the spiritual decay of the nation. I'm going here in Nehemiah 13 because it's that same thing we're battling. We just got out of that pro-Greek sickness with the Hasmon, through the bravery of Mattathias and Judas and Jonathan and Simon. And now that threat's coming right back in to rear his ugly head to bring that pro-Greek element in. The scary thing is, it only takes one generation for everything to fall apart. One bad leadership, man, person, laissez-faire mindset, and the whole work can fall apart. That's the discouraging thing about serving the Most High and teaching His word and trying to do the right thing, is your life's work can be thrown in the trash can. Somebody wants to sit back and make improvements that don't need to be made. Well, make changes that don't need to be made.
And they got a new business idea that they think is going to fly off the shelf. Not realizing you're compromising spiritual integrity of everybody involved just because you got a new high flying business venture.
And that's the scary thing, that it's hard to stomach. It's very challenging. But this is the challenge of leadership and the fight to keep our way of life going.
The only way to maintain your integrity and your freedom is to do things yourself that you don't want anybody else to do. You can't get slothful. Then if the body is not slothful, there's no need to have anybody else do what you know how to do.
But this is the problem. The problem is Simon is old. Simon has lived his life.
I was just saying that for Eliashib, who was the priest, who was the high priest, who allowed Tobiah to come in and inject himself into the temple.
But he wanted his palm scratched. That's the problem. Eliashib wanted to get paid. He wanted his money.
But you didn't need him to manage what the priest was already supposed to manage. It was already given to the priest to manage all those, the corn, the wine, and all the surplus.
But the problem is this: he didn't do it for that, because they just moved all the supplies somewhere else. Listen, they moved that space and put it somewhere else in another storage unit and allowed him to go there and conduct business for a fee.
Yeah.
Tobias came and kicked down Eliashib some bread. But Eliashib was supposed to get paid by who? The tithes of the people.
Yeah.
That was his paycheck. But the problem was that paycheck wasn't enough. Yeah. Remember, as we read in this, I'm not going all the way here, but in Nehemiah 13, one of the problems was all the priests weren't getting paid.
Yeah.
Remember that? It was only the guys at the top getting paid. Nobody else got anything else. And he was like, this is crap. So obviously everybody's palm was itching. So everybody was getting paid up top, and the regular priests weren't even getting paid. So when they stopped getting paid, then they stopped making it about the priesthood. And then the regular people don't get focused on. Everybody is going for theirs. And it started at the top.
It's like government contracting.
God.
If you're the son of a politician, you're going to get your own overseas contracting company, like Jared Kushner.
Yeah.
You're going to have deals and be open to deals, and you're almost a foreign emissary and a dignitary to another country, because you're going to bring in products, you're going to bring in industry, you're going to bring in buildings, hotels, you're going to bring in all these things to this country, but that money only sits amongst the wealthy.
How did Nancy Pelosi's son get on the board of the Taiwanese microchip giant corporation. How did he get on the board? What did he do to sit? Did he move to Taiwan and sit back here and work his way from the top and get put on the board?
Does he even speak the language?
Does he even speak the language? Hell no, he doesn't. How did Joe Biden's son,
Hunter Biden
Hunter Biden, sit back here and get on the top corporations in Lviv, Ukraine?
and China,
And China. How does this happen?
a known crackhead.
Con. And a PDF file. How does this happen? Anyway, so let's continue in Nehemiah 13.
Verse 8. And it grieved me sore. Therefore I cast forth all household stuff of Tobiah out of the chamber.
So what he did is he sat back here and took all the stuff he had in this room and took it out. Read on.
Then I commanded, and they cleansed the chamber.
Now the question is this. Why was Nehemiah able to come in here and bolo with force and take that guy's stuff out? He had the king's authority. Without that authority, they would have murdered him on the spot. All those money mongrels would have sat back and killed him. I killed him dead. And the only thing that keeps the Jew honest is political power. That's it. Because that's why the prophets will get killed. Because the prophets are like, who the hell gave you the authority? Your clout ain't strong enough to keep me from doing what I'm going to do. So we're going to murder you. The only guys that had the clout was Ezra and Nehemiah. And then when Ezra and Nehemiah were checking folks, they was crying. Why are they crying? Those are devil's tears. They cried because, we have to cry. That's why everybody followed Josiah and Hezekiah. It's just really sad at the level of corruption that continues to fuel Israel, and it starts at the top. And you wonder why the Most High has to sit back and keep knocking us down, knocking us down, knocking us down. Continue.
And thither brought I again the vessels of the house of the Most High, with the meat offering and the frankincense. And I perceived that the portions of the Levites had not been given them.
You see what I said? They were holding off their extra supplies and not giving the Levites what they and their family needed to survive. So they were starving out their own people. And they weren't even using it. They were just sitting on it. They were sitting on the regular supplies, and the Levites couldn't eat. Read on.
For the Levites and the singers that did the work were fled every one to his field.
So you know what it did? So now there were less people teaching the Bible and counsel. Just think about it. What is a Levite's job to do at the court? Sing, counsel, do your job, maintain the environment to be spiritual. When you starve out the regular priests that were supposed to do their job, they're going home to their field to do what? To work. They got to go make their money. So now the teachers are gone. So now who else is left in the court? But businessmen. Now the businessmen are going to make their money and do their job and hustle the people. It was less and less about the teaching and the counseling and more about just making money and shaking hands and doing business. Read on.
Verse 11. Then contended I with the rulers and said, why is the house of the Most High forsaken? And I gathered them together and set them in their place. Then brought all Judah the tithe of the corn and the new wine and the oil onto the treasury.
So listen, I'm not going any further because Nehemiah starts to solve the problems. The problem is once the problems are solved and he leaves, everything goes back to the regular status quo. We're going to prove that by going to Josephus, book 12, chapter 5. Josephus, book 12, chapter 5, paragraph 1. Because we're jumping from the reign of Nehemiah at the time of the Persian and Mede Empire. Now we're jumping all the way down to the fall of Persia, the rise of the Greek Empire, the rise and fall of Alexander. All his generals get their power. All these things happen And now we have the priesthood again falling short. So book 12, chapter 5, paragraph 1. Read that.
Page 322, Antiquity of the Jews, book 12,
Chapter 5,
paragraph 1, line 237. About this time, upon the death of Onias, the high priest, they gave the high priesthood to Jesus, his brother. For that son which Onias left, or Onias IV, was yet but an infant.
Onias IV is the one that ended up going and leaving and running the temple, the newly created temple in Egypt. Okay, read on.
And in its proper place.
And this guy, Jesus, his brother that got the kingdom, that was Jason. Because Jesus changed his name to Jason. Read on.
And in its proper place, we will inform the reader of all the circumstances that befell this child. But this Jesus, who was the brother of Onias, was deprived of the priesthood, high priesthood, by the king, who was angry with him and gave it to his younger brother, whose name also was Onias.
So, Jason was what's the word? He wasn't allowed to run the priesthood first because he was the older brother. Onias was put over. Onias was the good high priest. Onias was killed and removed. Jason was put over him in his place. But Jason was the older brother in the first place. Read on.
For Simon had these 3 sons, each of whom the priesthood came, as we had already informed the reader. This Jesus changed his name to Jason, but Onias was called Menelaus.
So there were 3 Onias. The good Onias was the younger. You had Jason, or Jesus changed him to Jason, and another Onias who changed his name to Menelaus. These were all 3 priests. There were 3 sons of Simon, which was the head priest before them. The good Onias, I think it was Onias the third.
Yeah.
Onias the third, he ran the kingdom well. He was ousted. Jason came into power. Menelaus ended up taking Jason out of power. Menelaus ended up killing Onias the third. Read on.
Now, as the former high priest, Jesus raised a sedition against Menelaus.
Because Menelaus took out Jason, took him out of power. Jason fought for the kingdom back. Read on.
Who was ordained after him. The multitude were divided between them both, and the sons of Tobias took the part of Menelaus.
So I was going here to say that the sons of Tobias are still here and were major players in the political development and direction of the nation. Why are these Ammonites allowed to sit back here hundreds of years later to have a say into who's going to run Israel? The Tobias were the ones had a hand. We're going to back Menelaus because Menelaus is going to make us what? Money and wealth. But once again, it just shows that after Nehemiah left, that Tobiah influence kept growing stronger and stronger and stronger again. And this is the consequence of allowing foreign people and foreigners that aren't tied down to the same spiritual responsibilities that we as Israelites have. You can't mix them together. Okay? Let that go, because that's all I want to go. Everything else, don't need to do it. We've already gone through this topic. But we're going over these Tobias and this foreign element that Simon now is faced with having to deal with by letting his daughter marry this guy who is either pro-Greek, a pro-Greek Jew, or he's a nation that's got power and he's giving him leverage. These guys aren't tied down to the same thing the Jew is tied down to. And it causes issues down the line. So, now we go to verse 14 in 1 Maccabees 16. So 1 Maccabees 16 and 14.
1 Maccabees chapter 16 and verse 14. Now Simon was visiting the cities that were in the country.
So Simon went to visit Jericho. He went to visit Jericho and see what was happening in that region of the territory he was responsible for. Read on.
And taking care for the good ordering of them.
This is very similar to what was the brother's name? Can't think of it right now. He was gosh darn it. Samuel. Very similar with Samuel. Remember Samuel twice a year would see every city that Israel inhabited, and he would judge the matters of the city. He would do it twice a year. He made his constant rotation to make sure the people were taken care of.
It said from Dan to Beersheba, right?
Yep. He went from the top to the bottom. He made sure all the matters that need to get addressed were addressed. Simon's doing the same thing. He's doing his due diligence. Now he's going to Jericho to make sure the affairs of the Israelites of Jericho are considered. Read on.
At which time he came down himself to Jericho with his sons.
No. Where is that 13?
That was 14.
Read verse 14 again from the top.
First Maccabees chapter 16 and verse 14. Now Simon was visiting the cities that were in the country and taking care for the good ordering of them. At which time he came down himself to Jericho with his sons, Mattathias and Judas, in the 117 year, in the 11th month called Sabbath, where the son of Abubas, receiving them deceitfully into a little hole, called Docus, which he had built, made them a great banquet. Howbeit he had hid men there.
So he had a big banquet for these men, Simon and his sons, and Simon's wife. They had a big banquet for them. It's giving some red wedding kind of like vibes. It's giving red wedding vibes, Game of Thrones. They sit back here and get them fed, get them drunk, and then commit some foul stuff. Read on.
So when Simon and his sons had drunk largely,
there you go. This is red wedding, all wrapped into one. Read on.
Ptolemy and his men rose up and took their weapon and came upon Simon into the banqueting place and slew him and his son and his 2 sons and certain of his servants.
Now the sons and the servants were captured, but he killed Simon right off rip. While they were drunk, they were having a good time, and they laid their hands down. This is a literal travesty. And who's read Dante's Inferno or heard about it? Dante's Inferno was a Greek writing that talks about the different levels of hell that a person goes to. And I think in that Dante's Inferno, this story is, I think, the 8th chamber of hell. And it talks about there's a certain place in hell that you go to when you sit back here and you do evil to people that did good to you. And the story of Ptolemy is literally talked about all throughout history because this is a foul and dirty play. So it also gives you kind of idea of where Game of Thrones took it from. Game of Thrones took it from this scenario, literally. The idea of bringing somebody in under false pretense with the intent to get them drunk and comfortable and eradicate the leadership. That literally, that wasn't brilliant writing by, what's that guy's name? Who wrote Game of Thrones? J.R. It wasn't J.R. It was something, George something. Point is, whoever wrote it, he took it from this. Because this is a worldwide treachery that has been written down in history was that George Martin? Yep, it was George Martin. This is the worst thing you can do is to establish treachery when a person has another foot. This guy, listen, Simon put him on top, allowed him to marry his daughter. What are you going to say to your wife when you killed her dad and killed her brother? What are you going to say to her? Shut up for your next. That was the most dirtbag thing you could do to your people. Anyway, it's really unfortunate. It's really messed up. So we read verse 17, right?
No,
but let's keep going.
Verse 17, in which doing he committed a great treachery and recompense evil for good.
And like I said, if you go and look at Dante's Inferno, I think it was the 8th chamber of hell is what happens. This is what happens. When a person does this, it is an unforgivable act that brings deliberate punishment. Now listen, I'm not into all that 8th chamber of hell crap. And I'm only bringing it up to let you know how renowned and known this story is around the world. Okay? Now hold that and jump to Proverbs 17 and 13. Proverbs chapter 17 and verse 13.
Proverbs chapter 17 and verse 13. Proverbs chapter 17 and verse 13. Whoso rewardeth evil for good, evil shall not depart from his house.
Mosiah said evil is never going to depart from Ptolemy's house because he brought evil to a person that showed him nothing but good. It's like he cursed himself in perpetuity. But that's the worst thing you can do to a person that's been kind and loving and considerate and embrace him like a son, to have him and all his family wiped out in one shot. How much worse can you be? How much more corrupt could a person be to do that?
Yeah, and it said already that he already had gold and silver.
Yeah.
It wasn't like he was a desperate for survival. It wasn't even out of survival for him to do that.
The scripture even said that a person can understand a person stealing for food.
Yeah, so it wasn't even out of desperation for food. That's just pure wickedness.
Yes,
when there's no need, that's senseless at that point to take somebody's life when there was no need to, and your life was not in jeopardy whatsoever.
Survival.
It wasn't even a lot of he wasn't desperate at all. It wasn't like I had to do it because I had to feed my family. It was none of that. It's inexcusable.
Yes, it was. It was really messed up. And what else can you do but just realize, man, this is another story, another concept that you can do everything right assignment and still die treacherous. It's just there's no guarantee nothing's going to happen to you. There's no guarantee about nothing. Simon, listen, this story kind of reminds me of Hezekiah. Hezekiah was one of the greatest kings of all time. And the Most High said, hey, Hezekiah, I know you're 40, just 40 years old. Get your affairs together. It's time for you to die. What? I'm 40 and I got to die? When you had wicked Judite kings and wicked Northern Kingdom kings run their entire course and die at ripe old ages? And Hezekiah sit back here and deal with the notion he's probably going to get taken out by 40? Hezekiah was such a great, or such an on-point God, he just sat back and sent his prayers up. And the Most said, I'll give you 15 more years. Hell. I think it was King Asa reigned for 55 years. And that guy was leprous. Why did he get to live for reign for 55 years? That means, listen, that means he died in his 60s, 70s. Then you got Josiah, dies by an arrow to the stomach. He was the great king. What am I trying to say? You can do everything the right way, and when it's your time to go, it's your time to go. You would have thought that Simon would have sat back here and died in his sleep.
Yeah.
Or just died in a quiet, very tranquil place. Moses said, no, you're going to die by treachery because this is my will. What can you say? You'll get mad at the Most High? Better not. It's just a very humbling idea to realize, hey, man, do the best you can. Live as honorable as you can for the Most High. And whatever the Most High does, be okay with it.
What was that? Revelation chapter 6, verse 4? On 9 and 4. Says the saints that have already been killed are asking the same question. Like when will the Most High avenge us?
Yeah.
It's
I don't think it's 9, but I'll look for it. I
you can find it with
about.
it's like
Oh, it's 6 and 10.
6 and 10? Yeah.
I think it's 6.
Let me see. Yeah. 6 and 9.
Okay.
6 and 9. Read that, Double.
Revelation chapter 6 and verse 9. And when he had opened the fifth seal, I saw under the altar the souls of them that were slain for the word of the Most High.
There's a lot of souls that have been slain for the word, doing right. That's been doing right in the eyes of the Most High, being his servants, and was put to death for being his servants. And he said he looked under the altar. He said, and what?
I saw under the altar the souls of them that were slain for the word of the Most High.
Go ahead.
And for the testimony which they held.
The testimony they held is that they were going to be dedicated and do service to the Most High no matter what. And it's unfortunate that a lot of their souls were taken out of their body by injustice for serving the Lord. Read on.
And they cried.
And these souls cried what?
With a loud voice, saying, How long, O Most High, holy and true, does that not judge and avenge our blood?
It said there's a lot of souls that's waiting under the altar for what? For vengeance. And they're crying, when are you going to bring vengeance to us? And when are you going to bring vengeance and judge the people that did us wrong and did us dirty? Simon would be in this particular class of souls, and one of these individuals crying for the Most High to bring about vengeance for the injustice he received while serving the Lord. Read on.
And avenge our blood on them that dwell on the earth.
But what did the Most High say? Read on.
And white robes were given unto every one of them.
Now we do know that Simon is rocking a white robe. Read on.
And it was said unto them that they should rest yet for a little season.
He says, and the Most High said that you'll rest for a little season. Read on.
Until their fellow servants also and their brethren that should be killed as they were should be fulfilled.
So guess what? Guess what has to happen? Is that the last guy that's going to get stabbed in the back or serving the Lord, or the last amount of treachery received? No, that means that there's still a lot more servants of the Lord that still will be put to death until the Most High finally demands vengeance on everybody. And until that time, they've been adorned in white robes.
And what you're showing is it's a great glory to go down that way. Sit back, have a clear conscience, live the right way. And if that's how you have to go, that's how you have to go. That's the right way to embrace that treachery. Yeah. Because listen, that's the greatest way you can go out this morning. Going over that mini class and we did about them in 2 Maccabees 7. Go down and martyrdom is the most honorable way to get to the kingdom. And to be specific, this is why those guys are the ones who will be close to that 144,000 and the regular guys, and they have to suffer that. If you sat back and went through that, you're more apt to be a part of the 144 than everybody else. Just be conscious of that.
But it might be a disgrace to die that way on earth,
yep,
but not in the eyes of the Most High.
Mm-hmm. But either way, it's a sad end to a great run of these Maccabee brothers who sit back by sheer faith and fight and will help reestablish the nation. Because listen, we've read on countless occasions how these numbers that they fought against were constantly just astronomically out of their favor. And the Most High kept coming through for them because of their faith and their will. And the Most High kept blessing them because of it. And it's a testament for us to continue fighting our battles and trusting the Most High is going to be there for us until our time is up. And that's all we have to look at things. And you can't control wicked, evil people. You know, Proverbs said that this man will never find peace. Was the word peace? It wasn't peace. He would never find, it was Proverbs 17. He'll never find a person that entreats evil for good will never find evil, will never depart their house.
Yeah.
So this guy's got a death wish waiting for him from here on out for the rest of his life. But you know what? He's going to die, but a great man's going to die. Now the next man has to rise up, and it goes back to what's the next man made of? And is he going to be as faithful as his father? Is he going to be as strong as his father? Is he going to be as potent as his father? And the question is, you just don't know yet. So, with that being the case, let's go to Ecclesiasticus 12, verse 10 through 17.
Ecclesiastes chapter 12 and verse 10. Never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusted, so is his wickedness.
Listen, this is revisionist history. But the only lesson you could properly take from this experience is if you have a Jew that you're working with, and he's not completely committed to this work, there's limits to how much you can trust. There's limits to how much you can let your hair down and relax around a person who is not as committed to this work as you are. It doesn't mean you have to hate. It doesn't mean you have to be distant. But there's limits to how much trust and benevolence you can give to somebody that has shown that their number one priority isn't the work. And listen, even that you can get betrayed. So you can get betrayed one way or the other. But how can you protect yourself, and what lessons can you get from stories like this? What's the best way to protect yourself from betrayal? Really learn the person that you have to deal with every single day. You have to know. And before you bring them close to you, you have to put more time to understand where a person's spirit is at and where his allegiances truly line up. Read on.
Verse 11. Though he humble himself and go crouching, yet take good heed and beware of him.
Just because this guy told me, son of a boobus, is smiling, is telling you what you want to hear, it doesn't mean that his heart is sincere towards the Lord. This is what I know for me. When I have a guy smiling in my face and give me a bunch of compliments, I don't trust that guy. I don't trust that guy. Why are you gassing me up like this, bro? I'm not asking for it. So why are you gassing me up? There's a couple of things you just can't, the over-gasser or the person that doesn't buy into the program the way you buy into them. It ain't personal. But how can I trust that you're in it for the long haul with me unless you're in the mud with me? Getting the work done, losing. How else can you determine a person you can trust versus a person that you respect? There's just different levels of love and respect. I can respect all men, which I'm supposed to. That don't mean I bring them close and I let my hair down. That's a different story.
It tells you that before you counsel, you gotta know what that person had, what that person needs, before you counsel. Because you don't know the level of desperation. It's hard to quantify what people do within a pinch.
And what their true heart is. And that's the point. So it's hard, even though this guy is your son-in-law, was he really vetted? Did you really know where his heart was? How many councils did you operate with him in? Did you sit back here and was he with you in battles? Was he that kind of guy? It's almost like, because you're going to keep reading in these scriptures and in the history, this unavoidable issue with righteous, upright men having to work closely with snakes. It is a reoccurring theme. And it's like, man, couldn't these guys see that they were dirt bags? Couldn't you see it a mile away? Were we just overly positive? What kept us from seeing people for who they are? And then two, what power did they have to eradicate that influence from the nation? I guess those are two issues. You might know they're dangerous or threats, but what could you really do about it to neutralize the threat? Like, let's say, for instance, Simon, all of the warriors he fought with aged out too. Listen, everybody he fought, he was the last of the brothers. You think those men that fought with him, those 2,000 men, they're at the age where they can sit back and run and lead the next generation? They were aging, they had sciatica too. They had herniated discs too, from all the wars, They probably had PTSD and all kinds of craziness going on with them. So you almost have to trust, you have to give people opportunity. But how do you vet that? How do you vet that? You can't. How can a person really vet if their son even has what it takes? How could he have vetted even if John Hyrcanus was the next man? How do you know? He had other sons, Mattathias and Judas. Were they the one? Who knows? You would think that John Hyrcanus was the more trusted because he had to sit back and run a literal city itself. But what does that all mean? It's just, you think about it and you sit back and try to figure out what he could have did differently. And the only thing you can do is vet him and be less trusting in the vetting process. Continue.
And thou shalt be unto him as if thou hadst wiped a looking glass.
Mm-hmm.
And thou shalt know that his rust hath not been altogether wiped away.
But in order to really see if their rust hasn't been wiped away, you need time. You need to put a person through a series of scenarios to determine if he is worthy of taking a flyer on. So once again, we're supposed to be at peace with all men, all sisters. We're supposed to be cordial and loving to everybody we come across. But that doesn't mean trust is easily given. That doesn't mean that you're supposed to sit back and let a person in your home or let a person have access to you on an intimate level until they earn that trust. And you have to sit back and allow time and adversity to see where this person's rusted at. Are they really worthy of more of my time? And are they worthy of me letting my hair down around you? This is why, as a man, you have to keep that preeminence. This is why every young man ain't going to see the lighter side of an older man in the truth. It takes time to earn that trust. Because a lot of times, if you show that trusting side too early, a man will throw it in your face. Because that's what they're looking for. A lot of people are looking for a reason to be naked versus trying to absorb strength and grow in Christ. So this is talking about the vetting process before you just trust anybody. And just because a person says complimentary things and knows how to communicate and shows that they're industrious and shows the capacity to handle business, you still have to set up more barriers to determine how serious they are.
That's what it says. It says some say they're a friend, but there's a friend that's only a friend in name. Not everybody's a friend. You know, these are conversations that we've had in class. We've had this, and these are conversations that you have to have with your children. Not everybody, child is innocent. They'll think everybody's your friend. Not everybody's your friend. You know, and that vetting process is like the Most High does with us. He says, if you found faithful over a few things, he make you rule over much. You have to prove to the Most High that you're faithful before the Most High starts to open the door to giving you more. It's the same thing we should do to people. Christ said, cast not your pearls before swine. It says, and give not that which is holy unto dogs. It says, for they shall trample them underfoot. So Christ tells us that we got to beware of snake-like individuals, that not everybody is deserving of our pearls or things that are valuable. And he also says, try the spirit by the spirit to see where they are the Most High. He said, because many false prophets are going out in the world. You're not supposed to believe everybody because they got a Bible in their hand. And you're supposed to prove people before you bring them close. The Bible's all about putting barriers up before you just letting people see an intimate side of you. Everybody don't deserve to be to see and will value you and respect you when you let them in close. Everybody don't have respect for you like you may feel, or that respect may be one-sided. You may have a respect for them; they might not have respect for you.
And time has to show it.
Time shows.
Adversity has to show it. Loss has to show it. Then you see where a person's really at. So it's just, the point is, I don't know what battle he was with this man telling me to trust him that much, but he put himself in a vulnerable position as if he really trusted. But just because he was nice to Ptolemy didn't mean, and Ptolemy was nice back, didn't mean he was the kind of caliber of person to put your life in his hands. He ain't even being the son-in-law. How about you're supposed to love this person, but always be aware that some sly stuff can happen. And the problem is that's hard for people to do. You ever notice, like, the most spiritual solution to anything is predicated on having a pure outlook towards a situation, but to not be fooled by the idea that something sideways can happen. You have to have enough love and purity of outlook to see the good and to give people and circumstances chances, but not be ignorant of anybody's evil. But a lot of us can't think in that mental space, because if we think in that mental space, we go left, and we're apprehensive, and we're negative, and we act all weird. Because a lot of us can't love and be merciful and be considerate and see the good in people, but not be ignorant of anybody's devices. Does that make sense?
How do you not, in the ignorance piece that you're talking about, how do you not be ignorant? Is that where you apply the wisdom? Or where does the lack of ignorance come from? Because if you don't know, you don't know. But then you're saying don't be ignorant.
What I'm saying is this. All the time we teach people to see the good in people and to show love and to give people a chance to show that they're worthy of being worked on, or to give people opportunities to show that they're trying. Because a lot of us are very judgmental, and after one mistake, we cut people off, or we don't trust at all. The issue is to teach people how to have mercy and be trustworthy, but not foolish to the capacity of what people can do. And that is a difficult line to be drawn, because when you start trying to tell people to be conscious of what their flaw or a problem, the people just hyper focus on the flaw and they can't see the good. You have to be able to see the good, understand how to be merciful with somebody, and then at the same time, see the issue, let them prove that they're trying to fix the issue, but still have the capacity not to be snowballed by a person's negative advances, negative intentions. It's a complex thing. It's complex to learn mercy and patience, but also not take Israel's crap. Does that make sense? Because that's what it takes to be in Simon's position. He has to be able to sit back and delegate, administer responsibilities to multiple people. He has to give trust, but not be completely trusted. You know what I'm saying? You have to give trust to be able to sit back here and give people management position. But you can't take it personal. And you have to be able to mitigate what a person's capacity is. I guess it's what I'm saying might be coming off confusing or even contradictory, but I'm not trying. You have to have enough balance in your mind to give people chances, to give people benefits of the doubt, to have the willingness to work with people, but also not let people run over you and take advantage of you and use you. It goes both ways. Is what I'm saying making sense? No.
Yeah, I was saying, how much of it is being observant, but not being gullible, but having faith in the Most High, that ultimately He's controlling everything? And if you're not being ignorant, but the purpose behind why you're doing what you're doing, the Most High is going to have your back.
It's that too. It's you have to have enough faith that the Most High is looking after you. So you give people those chances and those opportunities to make things right, to build on those relationships. And then also be conscious that, okay, I'm giving this person the benefit of the doubt, but I know what's in them.
Right. So I'm watching.
I know what's in them. I know what they're capable of. I know what a person is capable of, but I also am looking to see if they're going to fight through their lesser selves.
That's even with like your children.
It's circumspect because you know what they can be capable of on the left-hand side. But you have to sit back and look at them with an objective enough mindset to see if they're trying to be a better version of themselves. In order to do that, you can't take them personal, and you have to put the Most High in. The Most High has to be the motivation by not taking them personal. It's the combination of things. But for this guy, I might not think he's the devil. This guy told me, but I can't trust him. I got to have my guard down. I got to have my guard on standby. Because I don't trust him like that. But I trust him enough to have a meal with him. You get my point?
Yeah.
Until he shows me over time that I can trust him, then I just can't give him that level of trust. I like I said, maybe I'm overthinking it, but I'm trying not to overthink it. Yes.
Right. I'm trying to label it like a spiritual spidey sense. You know what I'm saying? Where it's just that, you know what I'm saying? For being observant and watching, it would be the Most High alerting you to the possibility of something so that you.
I guess my thing is this. It is a spiritual spidey sense, but the problem is, this is the hard thing to explain. It's hard to explain it because people's nature take over too much. If I'm distrustful, what I'm saying don't work. Then your distrust is going to ooze off of you. You almost have to be in a pure spirit for this to even work. But if I'm a skeptical, negative-minded person, then it's not going to work because you're never going to be able to give them a chance to prove that they are to be trusted. So it's like this, what I'm explaining, you have to be in the spirit of Christ. Because the scripture says about how he sends us in the midst of wolves. But we have to be what? Sheep in the midst of wolves. That's the concept. The sheep knows there's wolves around them, but the sheep still needs to maintain their what? How can you maintain your spiritual innocence and then know there's filthy animals around here that might want you to be harmed?
Harmless is the wisest son.
Huh? That's what I'm saying. God. But before that, it says you're that sheep in the midst of wolves. You have to be harmless, but also be aware. But the problem of us, we are aware and we're guarded. We're aware and distrustful. And that's when we go left. That's why a person can take this concept and go left with it. You have to be harmless, no ill intent, looking for the purity in people, knowing that more than likely you won't see the purity. But giving people the chance to show that they're trying to be pure. So it's almost like to be spiritual, you have to be perfectly in the middle. Not given to a evil suspicion, an evil surmising, an evil expectation. You got to be in the middle. You have the capacity to go left. but I'm not going to act like you're going to go left next. I have to see every decision you make in a pure perspective. Because if I think a person is negative, then what am I going to project? That the next move you're going to make is negative. The next 3 moves, it looks like it's good, but there's a dog. You a dirty dog, 5-letter word. And that's what's in the back of your mind. You can't be that way. You got to say, this person has the capacity to be that dirty dog, whatever, but I got to see their actions to be pure. If I'm going to be harmless as a what? Sheep. I have to stay pure of our outlook while knowing what this person can do. That's how you learn how to stay spiritual. Because you got to keep giving Israel a chance, right? Our job is to give Israel a chance to do right, but know that they might not do right. They might not ever do right. How can you forgive 70 times 7 unless you do that? I got to keep giving you chances, and whether you sit back here and keep falling, or this time you actually change, I got to wait and see. I got to put myself in a position to let you prove me. It's not about you proving me right or wrong at all. I'm not supposed to have an expectation. Right. I just have to know you are capable of going to the left or to the right, and I got to see what you do. And I can't operate in any anticipatory way, because that's me being out the spirit. When I try to anticipate what a person is, or I think a person is going to be that way, that's what being in the spirit is. I hope that made more sense. So I don't have to trust you, but I can still give you a chance. I don't have to sit back here and know you're going to come through for me, but I got to sit back here and give you a chance to prove that you are changing. You got to give people a window to show that they're trying. Does that make sense? Without giving up my spiritual position or giving up my life, putting my life into the hands of a person who's unproven. Am I like talking like Chinese arithmetic right now? Because the looks I'm getting are like this. Okay. This is a ping pong 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 pong. I'm trying to sit back here and pray clarity.
Now I'll say, because sometimes
like love and don't trust all the way. What is this? This doesn't make any sense.
I referred to earlier your children, and I say children because that has a greater effect on you. You're I'm not saying biased, but your effect in your decision making and what you do. So the ability to stay more in a pure mindset, to be able to see the ever so slightest increment of growth. I do see something small and ever so minute positive that's leading this way.
But that's easy because it's your kid.
But that's what
you're rooting for your kid.
Kind of.
I'm talking about some dirtbag that pissed you off and came to class the next day. I want the Lord. It's time for you to learn the Lord. I know I did you wrong last week. You know I know I'm slimy. We grew up in the same block, but I'm ready to change. It's different with kids, because with children, that's your blood.
Yeah.
I know Junior's tripping, man, but I think this is going to be the time he comes through.
It's like basically when you meet a person and you're trying to learn that person. Because I know I had experience like that where I had to give a sister a ride to class, but she lied on me and things. But I still had to get out of myself to continue giving her a ride to class. She's not here anymore, but I still had to not take away that opportunity for her to gain class. So I had to look at it from the standpoint that that's where she is in the spirit. And
I got to give this sister a chance to change.
Yeah, it wasn't me. It wasn't me.
But the only way you can look at a person's spiritual way is to disconnect. Because it's not about how this person makes you feel. It's this person has a sickness, and I have to show Christ that I'm not biased and partial. But does that mean that I don't think this person has the capacity to lie? You know, my mom would say, if you lie, you cheat. You cheat, you steal. And if you steal, you'll kill. Like, that's not necessarily true. But that was an old song. Like, that means if you lie, you gonna kill. That's not necessarily true. It's just the lie is the beginning of you being a murderer. If you lie, you'll cheat. You cheat, you steal. If you steal, you kill. And I was like, that's extreme. It's possible, but a lot of things gotta happen from lying to killing. There's a lot happens in your life.
It's
Jump that.
It's like you kill the positive in you.
Nah, we ain't getting all deep like that. It ain't even that spiritual. This is country. This is country bayou talk right here. This is Louisiana wisdom right here. I'm just being honest with you. It wasn't that deep. It wasn't nothing spiritual to it. Is if you lie, you gonna cheat. You cheat, you steal. And if you steal, you kill. That was what it was. It wasn't no breakdown. It wasn't no inner wisdom behind it. That was black folks talk in the 50s. Simple as that. And it was regurgitated from my grandfather to my mother, and I never forget it. That was it. It was that. It was filling stations. It was all these little words and these nuances that you never forget. Black cat means bad luck. All that stuff. Don't let a black cat cross your path when you're driving. It's all that stuff. It's all that stuff. All those little signs in life you gotta watch out for.
Don't break a mirror. 7 years.
Don't break a mirror. Listen, I was taking a walk. I was taking a walk in the neighborhood and I saw a dead bird. I thought about what Dahlia said. That's a bad omen. That's a bad omen. It's a dead bird. I'm like, how are you not going to see a dead bird in nature? Sometimes it happens. It doesn't mean it's a bad omen. So if a bird died of heat stroke, that means I'm the person that saw it dead. This is crazy talk. This is crazy talk. So the most I was looking after you, if you never come across, that doesn't mean the bad girl and the birds dead. That means the curse to the school life. What they talking about? Listen, the dead bird theory, the black cat, breaking glass, lie, you steal. Lie, you cheat, you steal, you kill. All of it don't make no sense. Anyway, so I didn't mean to cut you off. I just want you to know it was nothing spiritual behind that, but old black slave talk. That was slave talk right there. Pure slave talk. It was like 4 generations deep. I already know. Has anybody else heard that before? Okay. I know I'm not the only person online. Somebody's heard that before. Anyway, we kind of got thrown off a little bit, but your point was right. You got to know that a person has the capacity to be their worst self. But watch and look for them trying to be their best self. And in order to do that, you have to give people opportunities and remove yourself off the equation. But also in the midst of giving people chances to prove that they're trying to be better, do I throw myself in a vulnerable position to get ended my life? No, but giving a ride is not like exposing yourself to a greater issue, but that is a small thing you can do to show the Most High you're trying. But Simon put his life in his guy's hand. That's a different situation. That trust has to be built.
So somebody say that you offended them and you apologize for the offense. So it could be something you don't think that was offensive. So when you deal with that person, I have to do this before too. I have to be conscious of how to say something where it doesn't come off interpreted incorrectly. Because that person's mind goes wherever.
Yep.
So I know I had a sister I had to do that with. I had to become creative.
Yep.
And I had to actually stop and think
Yep.
of how to explain something where that person wouldn't take it offensively.
And then you have to do that, and you have to listen to how they talk and mirror their talk and really try to understand it as much as you can so you'll know exactly how to talk to adapt. It's either that or the flip. A person is offensive to you. You have to understand their sickness and why they're offensive and where that comes from, and still give them a chance to prove that they're trying to change, while not putting yourself in a position where they can harm you long term. Like I said, words is nothing, but I wouldn't put my trust in this person. My life in a person's hands who's unstable, it don't make no sense. That's a different story. You know what I'm saying? Let's continue in Ecclesiastes. It was 12.
Verse 12.
No. Where we at?
We were at 12 and 12.
12 and 12. Let's go.
Ecclesiastes chapter 12 and verse 12. Set him not by thee, lest when he hath overthrown thee, he stand up in thy place.
Because a lot of times people smile in your face, but they want what you got. So this is the thing. If there's a part of me that thinks a person is fake, that thinks a person is out to get me, most of us, what we'll do is just treat them cruel and back them away because we don't trust their intention. That's not how you operate in Christ. You have to be aware of what might possibly be a situation and allow the Most High to play it out while you stay blameless, but not give up and rescind your power. You're not giving up your position, but I can't sit back and not love my brother because there's suspicions there. I just can't put myself in a vulnerable position that you might take me out down. So trust, once again, trust is earned. People have to earn trust, but at the same time, we have to give the opportunity for people to build that trust. So I have to have the capacity to not be some okie doke person just to give you the benefit of the doubt just because you're asking for it, because the Most High also says, don't be hasty to what? Credit him. Mm-hmm. So I'm not supposed to be hasty to give you credit and to give you trust. But I also have to make sure I give you time and a chance to prove that your actions are sincere. Whether you make 1, 2, 15, 20 mistakes, I got to create a window to give you a chance to make it right while not being quick to give credit at the same time. It's both. And in order to do both, it can't be about what? You. And that's why it's so difficult to have righteous judgment. Because to have righteous judgment, you have to have a standard that has to be worked to, but you have to be loving and merciful to give a person a chance to get to that standard so that you can trust them. What we do is, what's easier for us is instead of waiting and giving people chances, we just cut them off and write them off and move on with our life.
That's convenient.
That's easy. That's the easy way. But the hard way is to listen, give chances, set up the expectation, and let them work towards the expectation. If they fail the expectation, create the expectation again. And give them time to work to the expectation and not mentally or spiritually quit on it. But that doesn't mean I give up. I just keep giving credit that is unsubstantiated or a person hasn't earned. You don't do that either. Anyway, so this is how you establish trust. You give a person a chance to be trusted without just cutting him off. Read on.
Neither let him sit at thy right hand.
So once again, that's the point. You're not supposed to let a person sit at your right hand unless they've earned it. This is what Simon did. The mistake was trusting that he could be a right-hand man. Did he really earn the right to be that right-hand man? You can have a person as a governor, and you can also sit back here and say, okay, I trust you to run this realm right, but I don't trust you to sit back here and let my guard down, let my forces down. Now, this is a different one because this is family, and I would imagine the wife was there. His daughter was there. So you would think that would disarm him. Because I would imagine that Simon looked at this guy's family. Then it goes back to the whole process of, why did you choose him? Why did you tell your daughter this was the guy? What made you think that a pro-Greek guy calling himself Ptolemy was the guy for your daughter? What the hell was going on in your mind? This guy was about his money, and this guy was rolling like an Edomite, or he was a non-Israelite. He was either a non-Israelite or he was rolling like a non-Israelite. Why would you even put him in that position unless you just weren't even focusing on it? Or unless you just didn't take him as a threat and you just dismissed him?
Or you saw dollar signs and you ignored what was inside the person. Because sometimes we do that also. You know, he looks stable.
Yeah.
He looks like
that's my point.
He got his business.
He gonna pay the bill.
He's responsible. Look at the car he got.
Yep.
Look at the house he got.
Yep.
You know, just because a person comes from a wealthy position doesn't mean that they have morality and they have integrity and they have virtues. That doesn't equate altogether. So that could be a setup that Simon put his daughter in because he thought he saw financial stability, but financial stability doesn't guarantee morality. And a lot of times we're looking at the wrong things in people and looking for the wrong things in our children to align themselves with people that look stable but are maniacs. They look stable financially, but they're crazy on the inside. You know, Proverbs chapter 25 and verse 19.
Proverbs chapter 25 and verse 19. Proverbs chapter 25 and verse 19. Confident in an unfaithful man.
It says, when you put your confidence in somebody that hasn't proven to be faithful, they haven't put the work in to be faithful, but yet you automatically you have assurance. There's a trust and assurance set up that it's given. Like, I'm sure this person is a good person. You don't know if this person is a good person. You're just telling yourself, I hope this person is a good person, or he looks like a good person, you know, or they seem like a good person. He says confidence in what?
In an unfaithful man.
A person that hasn't been proven. They haven't been proven to be faithful. You just give them too much credit too soon. What happens?
In time of trouble.
It says in a time of trouble, it'll repent you that you gave that person confidence. It'll repent you that you trusted somebody, and now in a pinch, look at the situation that you're in when you're in a pinch. Read on.
Confidence in an unfaithful man in time of trouble is like a broken tooth.
It's like a broken what?
Tooth.
You hungry as hell, but you can't eat. Ain't starving. You're starving, but you can't eat your food because you gotta push all the food to the other side of your mouth. And you gotta chew on one side of your mouth. And every time just a little bit of food goes on this side, man, nothing but pain. Pain. It pains you to eat on this side. You know how difficult it is to enjoy your food. You be hungry as hell, and you can only eat on one side of your mouth. The level of discomfort that you set up for when you got bad tooth pain or bad nerves, or you got an exposed nerve hanging out the roof of your mouth. Anything touch that, and it's like, damn, I'm hungry. I want to eat, but I can't. This is pain. It's torture. Read.
And a foot out of joint.
He said, and it's like a foot out of joint. Meaning you trust your foot to be there when you need it to be there. But what happens when you step down on a foot that's out of joint? You're going to buckle. You're going to crumble. He said that's how it's painful, and it comes back to bite you when you put too much trust too soon in people that are not faithful. You suffer for it later. And it comes back to bite you in the butt. And that's all he's saying is you can't put trust into people that is not faithful. You got to prove people.
Yeah. And it just looks like Ptolemy wasn't really proven, and there was a surfaceness to the judgment and the criteria that Simon went through to choose not just a leader that was dealing with the jurisdiction of area, but also the father of his grandkids. If he had any type of role in choosing, it looks like the character wasn't really there. And ambition took more of a precedence than spiritual stability.
Yep. He looks like he comes from money.
Yep.
He's got silver and gold. He comes from money. That don't guarantee nothing.
Doesn't. It just doesn't. And now Simon is passed on. His wife is a captive, and his sons are captive. And they're gunning for John Hyrcanus. Okay? You got more on your verse? Let's continue in Ecclesiastes.
Ecclesiastes chapter 12. Read verse 12 again.
No. We're jumping to oops. We're supposed to go to 17.
Okay. Ecclesiastes chapter 12 and verse 12. Set him not by thee, lest when he hath overthrown thee, he stand up in thy place. Neither let him sit at thy right hand, lest he seek to take thy seat, and thou at the last remember my word, and be pricked therewith.
So is the focus about should have been distrusting Ptolemy, or should the focus have been he has to earn this position? That's the mindset you have to take. Not I don't trust. You can't live in a negative, distrustful space. But the space you have to choose to take is this person has to earn this. And he has to keep earning my trust. And if you kept raising the bar to get this man to earn the trust, then you'll be able to maintain your outlook and your daughter's safety and your safety too. Read on.
Who will pity a charmer that is bitten with a serpent?
And this is the problem. Everybody should feel bad about Simon's downfall. But how much of it was he being negligent in who he chose to be a leader in a certain jurisdiction of Israel? You gotta really sit back and ask these questions, because if you're in that situation, these are questions you should be asking yourself too. If you have an opportunity to help your daughter choose who she deals with, these things have to be a part of how you process things.
You know, in Philo, it says that if a man has interest in a woman, the way that you classify whether he's serious or not is that he'll go to the parents. He'll approach the parents and find out if it's okay, if he's found worthy to be with his daughter.
Got it.
And he would hope that he would be worthy to be with his daughter. Otherwise, if he's not willing to go to the parents, he's just in for in and out. He's just in for smash and grab.
Because if he is going to go to the parents, do you think that he's going to say, "Oh man, thank you for coming to us and being humble. I like this guy"? No, if a parent, anybody worth his bones, is going to sit back and put him through a set of trials and tests, and hey, you got to work with me. I need to sit back and know you before anything continues to go further. So it's not just the conversation with the parents is the start. Then the earning of the trust is next. But that's perfect what you're saying.
And so, you don't just it's when somebody is willing to take it to those levels. Ultimately, what they're doing is they're opening themselves up for scrutiny, and this is where the scripture says, "In a multitude of counselors, there's safety." There should have been more counseling involved, and more counseling set up prior to establishing that wedding. And saying that's fine. There should have been more counsel. That's our protection is, what do you know about this person? I need more eyes on this individual.
Yeah.
I need more eyes on this person. Am I looking at this person the wrong way? Am I not seeing something that needs to be identified in this person that's a red flag? Because we always can see the red flags after the fact, after it's too late. And then you're like, damn man, what was I thinking? What was I doing? And why would I even let my child do that? Or give the green light and say that was a good move. You always see the red flags after the fact. But that's why in counsel, it says counsel go before every enterprise. Before you do anything, you got to bring these people around other people and get a second opinion, a third opinion, a fourth opinion. Is this person appropriate? Now, that's our best bet in a community is for the community to evaluate, is this person a man of integrity or a woman of integrity before I just give off my child to this individual. A lot of times we don't see things the right way. And we can't trust our own vision. That was it.
Listen, everything you said is perfect. Let's go back. Let's go to verse 13 again.
Ecclesiasticus chapter 12 and verse 13. Who will pity a charmer that is bitten with the serpent, or any such as come nigh wild beast? So one that goeth to a sinner and is defiled with him in his sins, who will pity?
So what is he saying? He's saying Simon brought this sinner too close to him. And now Simon and his family is defiled by this sinner's sins. That's what he's saying. That's why he's saying you can't be so quick to bring somebody that close to you without them being vetted, without them having to go through a set of trials to earn that trust and to continue to earn that trust. Read on.
For a while he will abide with thee, but if thou begin to fall, he will not tarry.
And listen, obviously what he saw was Simon's an older man. It's my time. He saw a flaw in him. He saw his age. He saw a chink in the armor. Because that's also what happens too when you're age. You're not as sharp as you used to be. You're not as in tune with everything that's necessary.
Not on alert.
You're not on alert. You're more, the war is over, let me relax and lighten things up. Don't forget, he's been on alert for 30 years. His whole life was on alert. And it's almost like the period of time he takes a break and eases off the gas, he let a sinner get too close to him. And now he has to deal with the stench of that sinner, the betrayal of that sinner. Sad story. Continue.
An enemy speaketh sweetly with his lips, but in his heart he imagineth how to throw thee into a pit.
This is why you can't listen to anybody that's gassing you up. Brother, wife, you take it with a grain of salt. Because so many times when you're getting gassed up, either somebody's trying to gas you up to get something out of you, or they're trying to gas you up to loosen or let down your what? Your guard to get something from it. And you take it with respect and you appreciate it, but just know I'm not going to fall and eat the cheese like that. Just because a person is very skilled in communication doesn't make him a good person. You never can forget that. Read on.
He will weep with his eye, but if he find opportunity, he will not be satisfied with blood.
Time.
If adversity come upon thee, thou shalt find him there first.
Exactly. Because it's really about setting up the adversity to take you down. Okay? So we got that point. Let us where are we at the war? Let's go back.
Finish 17.
Yeah, read 17. Yes, sir.
And though he pretend to help thee, yet shall he undermine thee.
So what he's saying is, in the midst of adversity, he might protect to help you, but he's looking for a way to get you. And so when you're down, when you're going through adversity, what's the lesson? He's saying in adversity, your enemy is looking for a way to break you. So what are you supposed to be doing in the midst of adversity? You have to fight your adversity and study the people around you. Who's with you during adversity? Who's right there in the thick, in the mud, losing with you? Those are the ones you back. Versus the ones that are looking for a window of opportunity to sit back here and gain leverage over. Those are the ones that adversity teaches you a lot about a person. It really does. Okay? Let's see.
There's a scripture that say that, an enemy shall not be known in prosperity.
Yeah. All facts.
Or a friend may not be known in prosperity. So it's you don't really know what's inside of people until seasons change.
Yep.
And then as seasons change and times change and difficulties, people reveal themselves over time. You need time to see people's intentions.
Yep. Go to 1 Kings 11 and 28.
First Kings chapter 11 and verse 28.
Mm-hmm.
And the man Jeroboam was a mighty man of valor.
Jeroboam worked under Solomon. And Jeroboam was the one that Solomon gave position to stay on top of the 9.5 tribes. When the 9.5 tribes were doing a lot of the manual labor around the temple. The 9.5 tribes were sitting, listen, Solomon was breaking the 9.5 tribes. And he was having them work crazy hours with crazy burdens. You know how we know that? Is when Rehoboam got into power, the 9.5 tribes said what? Lighten up this damn burden your father had or something. But Jeroboam showed that he was industrious. Solomon said, I'm going to let you stay on top of your people. Read on.
And Solomon, seeing the young man, that he was industrious, he made him ruler over all the charge of the house of Joseph.
So once again, Solomon made a mistake. in judgment. Solomon saw that Jeroboam was on top of his business, his paperwork business, his organization and leadership business. But Jeroboam was deficient in what? Spiritual business. And he sat back here and made him leader over the entire house of Ephraim, which means you just gave him power. You gave him power to win the entire nation without even betting if he was spiritually stable enough to handle that task. So now, when there's an uprising and you kick out Jeroboam, you try to kill him, and he flees to Egypt. When he comes back, he's a conquering hero that had already put the work into winning the trust of the Ephraimites without really vetting to see if this guy was spiritually stable. And the first thing Jeroboam does is what? Feast of Tabernacles, we're going to push it back. Because we're not going to sit back here and bring us with Judah. Because if we bring us with Judah, there's a chance everybody will come back and unify with Judah, and I lose my power. So there's that industrious mind spinning. The industrious mind spins greater than the spiritual mind. That preservation, that hustle, that desire to stay on top was more preeminent than the spiritual mindset that it's not about me coming up, it's about the nation coming up. We get caught up so much about the guy that makes economic sense and less about the person that makes spiritual sense. Okay. Read that verse. We finish verse 28? Yeah, you did. Let's see. Also, we read about the scripture that said marrying a daughter is a weighty time, weighty matter. Go to Proverbs 5, verse 15 through 17.
Proverbs chapter 5 and verse 15.
Okay, let's do that.
Proverbs chapter 5 and verse 15. Drink waters out of thine own cistern.
Let's read on.
And running waters out of thine own well.
What is this verse talking about? Sitting back here and choosing partners that are in the same spiritual mindset that you're in. Because this is what Simon should have been pushing for his daughter to tap into. Their entire Simon's daughter, from the daughter's perspective, her father and all her uncles gave their lives for this movement. Why would you choose a man that's disconnected from the movement? Because she's sitting back here and she's in love and whatever the hell's going through her mind. What wasn't on her mind was choosing a husband from the same cisterns or roots of his father. And Simon wasn't thinking that way either. If Simon had any power in this decision, why wouldn't you push her to somebody that was about maintaining the old ways and not compromising for this new Greek way of life? Whether this guy was an Edomite or this guy was a pro-Greek Jew, either decision was a bad choice. Why make a choice? You know what your father did. And all your uncles, all the sacrifice they did to get Israel back on top. And you're sitting back here and just looking for love. This is a Love Island episode. Yeah. And unfortunately, it is a lot of time. And look at that decision and how it impacted her mother. It impacts her mother, and all her brothers now have to suffer ill fates because she didn't make a decision that was tied into what was best for the lifestyle she was supposed to live. It lets you know about even what marriage is supposed to be about. It should be less about love and feelings and emotions and spiritual thinking and decisions. What should be the thing that drives you most? Is it the right way? Is it the right thing to make the spiritual marriage call on marriage? Or sit back here and make a decision on marriage that where you two might be more carnally compatible? That's the real question. Because when it says drink waters out of thy own cistern and running waters out of thy own well, what is he saying really to the root of it? You have to make the spiritual choice in marriage. and not the choice that fuels the carnal physical connection. Because a person can choose any partner and can find good in any connection. Am I right or wrong? You can find good in any connection. The question is, am I going to find good in the spiritual connection and deal with the consequences? Or am I going to find good in the carnal connection and deal with all the other bad things that come with that? Because everything in life when it comes to relationships is a trade-off. Is it or is it not? You're taking the good with the bad. There's no relationship that's all good. So if there's no perfect relationship, what should you hang your hat on in making your decision? At least I made a spiritual decision in hopes that both of us can look at life spiritually and go a direction to serve the Most High and try to raise our kids spiritually. Versus, oh yeah, I love them, and I know he was selling drugs, running streets, but I love him, and we had such good times together, and we'll make everything else work.
He was just misunderstood.
He just didn't know no better. You know, he didn't have his mom in his life. Okay, you should have thought about that before. But that's the point. When it says, drink waters out of their own cistern, the belief system that you have to choose should be tied into what you believe. And you hope and pray that every other aspect of the relationship will work out. It's better to hang your hat on that versus some kind of carnal connection, some worldly connection, and building it off that hope. You can pull that person to the spiritual side.
Ecclesiastes 4:9.
Go for it.
Ecclesiastes chapter 4 and verse 9.
Read that.
Two are better than one.
He said what?
Two are better than one.
Yeah, when you got two people in the same mind, same spirit, same understanding, same background, fighting for the same cause. Yeah, you can accomplish more when you have two people that are fighting for the same thing in a relationship and that care about the same things in a relationship. You know, it's a term that Matthew Henry called, he said, when you have opposing judgments, he said, it's like taking the left hand and putting the brick up and then taking the right hand and pulling the brick back down. How would you ever build a wall if you put a brick up with one hand and take it back down with the other hand? They said that's how it's like when you're working in a situation where there's disharmony. Everything you build, you're just pulling it right back down. You're just stripping away everything. There's no real momentum. There's no real progress. There's no forward momentum when there's always a pull or a regression from forward progression. Read on.
Because they have a good reward for their labor.
It said when two people are in the same mind, it says the reward or the benefits are easily seen for their labor. That means we're not working in vain. But when you're opposing, going forward, taking a step back, going forward, taking a step back, there's no real progress with the labor. You're wasting your labor arguing with somebody that's not, or dealing with somebody that's not in the same mind frame.
But you know, the messed up thing, Shams, one is more than likely Simon's daughter wasn't about her father's passion. Why else would she choose that?
Right.
Because ultimately it was her choice. Why did she choose the person whose heart was into the Greek ways or who was in another nation? It still falls out of that. It's the scary reality that you can be the greatest servant of the Lord and your child could still want the world. And her selfish choice ended up being the undoing of her father and her family.
And you know, in our times, it's so bad that it's almost like it's as long as he got a job and he's not a down low brother and he's not a switch hitter, you know, as long as he got a job and he's not a switch hitter and he's not a street guy, he's a candidate. That's how bad it is. Like the picking the picking and the
You
choice.
don't even gotta have the job. It's gonna be a question.
Yeah.
Right.
It's so bad. It's so bad. The standard has gone so low. It's like he's not a down low brother. He don't got a secret private life where he wear women's underwear on the weekends, and then he got a job, and he's not a street guy selling non-prescription medication. It's almost like if he's not at least in that realm, he's a candidate. The selection has deteriorated so bad, and the standard is so low. It's almost like it's like the greater of two evils, the best of two evils. Does he at least have a job? Does he go to school? Okay, he's at least in the running. He's in the race as a potential partner. But it's so bad. I'm not saying it wasn't bad then, because you still had that desire for Greek influence. You still had people desiring Greek ways and Greek lifestyles. So I'm not saying that it's no different back then. I'm saying is that our time, the selection and the choices, it's almost like it's almost best to send them to another country and say, go to Japan and go to the Philippines or go to Thailand and go get you a wife. But when you look at even how Isaac was like, listen, you're not going to take a wife for these Canaanites. You're not going to go. I got some cousins. I got a sister and a brother. I got family. Do not marry from these Canaanites. Go to my brother and Laban and go to his land and get you a wife. But I'm not going to let you marry these Canaanites here in this area. That's why Jacob had to get on the road, because you want your kids not to be susceptible to ways where that is not of your cistern, that is not of your well. Drinking foreign waters aren't always better waters. On that point. Read that again.
Verse 9. 2 are better than 1, because they have a good reward for their labor. For if they fall,
He said, for if they fall, read.
the one will lift up his fellow.
Yeah, you got greater support when you have a unified mentality, a unified belief. There's a better support system available. It's not like one person wins and the other person loses. There's not an imbalance. That's all I want to get out of that.
God, all facts. Let's go back and do Proverbs 5 and 16 and 17.
Proverbs, start 16?
16. We already read verse 15.
God. Proverbs chapter 5 and verse 16. Let thy fountains be dispersed abroad, and rivers of waters in the streets.
Read on.
Let them be only thine own, and not strangers with thee.
The Most High keeps trying to show you about keeping your resources, natural resources, your people, your culture pure, and fighting like hell to make sure that the people that you are surrounded with have the same beliefs, ideologies, ways of looking at things spiritually. And the closer you can connect that to your children and the mates they choose, the stronger of a bond you'll have. And the stronger and the better of a chance you have to continue your family line to stay in the same spirit that you try to establish. That's all you can hope to do. And there's somewhere in this interaction between Simon, his daughter, and the man that the daughter chose or the father recommended, there was some type of disconnect there. Some type of spiritual disconnect that ended up breaking down and messing up the entire family. Now we go back to First Maccabees 16 and verse 18.
First Maccabees chapter 16 and verse 18. Then Ptolemy wrote these things and sent to the king, that he should send him a host to aid him, and he would deliver him.
Hold on, check this out. He said, then Ptolemy wrote these things and sent to the king. What king did he send a letter to? King Antiochus VII. So obviously, this guy had been doing sideways deal with the Antiochus VII from the jump. Remember, Antiochus VII sent that military captain, Syndibus, to try to take over Jerusalem, and it didn't work. So what did Antiochus VII keep trying to do? Find a way to get into the nation. How do you do that? You look for the what? The sellout. You look for the ambitious person, the person that doesn't have the same ties, the same spiritual ties, and the same spiritual belief system that everybody else has. Obviously, this guy was a non-Israelite, or he was a real weak sellout Jew, man. And you know what the crazy thing is? Antiochus VII found that sellout and started communicating with them. This is where you got to read between the lines. Do you think that Ptolemy is going to come out of nowhere and say, hey, I just killed Simon, bring some guys down? You think that letter came out of nowhere? Or there was just some correspondence leading up to that matter? There was obvious communication saying, hey, the deed is done. I need you to send some men down here because I'm going to give you control of Jerusalem.
Good to have some money on his head.
God. So listen, the deed's done. Bring some soldiers. You guys can take over the city. You just got to make sure you let me be the one to run it.
Yeah.
And that was the deal. That was the sellout deal. It's really messed up. But how could Simon have missed it? How could the wife have missed it? What was going on in their mind? How could the men or the brothers miss it? How could they have all missed it? Because they let their guards down. They looked at the surface of the situation. They thought it was okay to intermingle belief systems. At the very least, they were okay with intermingling belief systems. At the very worst, they were okay with intermingling nations. The one thing that messed us up from the beginning with the Tobiah. It's one or the other. But either way, it's a damn tragedy that it's really their fault. So let me see. Did you read verse 18 from the top again?
I can read from the top.
Yes, do that.
Verse 18. Then Ptolemy wrote these things and sent to the king that he should send him a host to aid him, and he would deliver him the country and city.
Listen, he's going to give our enemies the country that all those sons and all those men fought so hard to reestablish. He's going to give it to them in one swoop. That's big time sellout stuff, huh? If you were a Jew, he deserved death. If he was a nation, shame on us for letting them that close. Get my point? Hold that and go to Philippians chapter 3, verse 14 and 19. Damn shame, man. It's so hard to it's hard to sit back here and do the right thing. Then it's hard to inspire others to do the right thing. Then it's even harder to hope that the next generation does the right thing. It's just so damn hard for all these things to work out the right way. It's very difficult. It's very difficult to find that succession of things going right. Find a person that wants to fight their battle. Find a guy that can sit back here, fight their battle, and inspire others to fight their battles. Stabilize your church, stabilize your camp, and then hope the next generation will take on that same mantle and the same mindset. For generation, we lack the capacity to run a string of 2 or 3 good guys in a row. 2 or 3 good leaders in a row. I can't think of the last time we had a string of 3 or 4 good leaders that was operating in succession.
You talking about At this time?
Yeah, just in time in general. You had a couple good or really good Judite kings. That was the best we had. A couple solid Judite kings.
Well, just
With Moses, it was Moses and Joshua, and everything fell apart.
and Caleb.
Yeah, but yeah, God. They were the same guy. They were the same age group. They were the same time period. After them, everything fell apart. It's like you might get 2 or 3 guys. Saul was off. David was up. Solomon was kind of up. Then it went down. It's like 2, maybe 3. Jehoshaphat was on point. His son came in and screwed the pooch. Partially because Jehoshaphat let him marry Ahab's daughter. Then he started killing, then Jehoshaphat's wife ended up killing all of Jehoshaphat's brothers, or Jehoshaphat's son's brothers. Everything fell apart. It's like maybe 2 generations. Then the next guy got to screw it up. Or if there was a great king like Hezekiah, his son just kept it all up. Josiah was a great king, his son screwed it up. If you can't even, for the greater the guy is, the next guy is even worse. 3 times worse. Anyway, it's discouraging. But we can't let the discouraging realities of things stop us from pushing forward. Philippians 3 and 14.
Philippians chapter 3 and verse 14. I press toward the mark for the prize of the high calling of the Most High in Yahushua.
Mm-hmm.
Let us therefore, as many as be perfect, be thus minded.
So he says, we're all should be, well, Paul is pressing towards the mark for the prize of the high calling of the Most High in Christ. So Paul took the mantle or made the decision to max himself out pursuing Christ. Read verse 15.
Verse 15. Let us therefore, as many as be perfect, be thus minded.
So he understands everybody isn't going to take on that mindset. Well, he's like, as many as want to be perfect, take the same mantle in position I'm taking. Read on.
And if in anything ye be otherwise minded, the Most High shall reveal even this unto you.
So he said that there's any person that's not thinking like this, I pray the Most High will teach you that this is the focus you're supposed to take. Because some of us don't want to max themselves out. Some of us just want to be commandment keepers. Cool. But Paul is like, listen, man, there's more to this, and I pray and hope that the Spirit teaches you that there's more to it than what you think and what you are willing to give. Because everybody should be pushing towards the mark of the high calling that Christ gave. Read on.
Nevertheless, whereto we have already attained, let us walk by the same rule. Let us mind the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Brethren, be followers together of me, and mark them which walk so as ye have us for an
So
ensample.
what is he saying? He's like, mark the people that are trying to be in samples like we're trying to be in samples. Because those are the ones who are trying to be in samples like us, those are the ones that have to be recognized and get put on a track for leadership. Because it's hard to find people who want to take on this leadership and this responsibility like Paul was trying to do. Read on.
For many walk, of whom I have told you often, and now tell you even weeping, that they are the enemies of the cross of Christ.
When it says there's a lot of people that are enemies of the cross of Christ, how are people enemies of the cross of Christ? What did the cross of Christ represent? The cross of Christ represented the affliction that a man or woman has to go through in order to gain the mark of the prize of the high calling of Christ. You don't get to the mark and prize of the high calling without the afflictions of Christ. So if people are enemies to the afflictions of Christ, that means people are out here that know the scriptures, know the Bible, and don't believe you got to suffer to get closer to Christ. Don't believe you have to lose anything to get close to Christ. Don't believe they have to suffer anything to be close to Christ. Those are the ones that are enemies to the cross of Christ. Because those enemies doesn't mean that they don't believe in Christ or have an idea of who Christ is. They're just an enemy to the level of loss that it takes to gain the highest mark possible. Because you can't achieve gold or attempt to achieve gold or silver in the work or precious stones without loss. Remember James and John came and told Christ with their mom, we want to sit back and be on the right and left of you. And Christ, are you going to sit back and go through the same things I'm going through or not? In order to get to the high mark of Christ, you got to want to suffer. But there's a lot of Israelites who are enemies to that. They're enemies because they are against or opposed having to lose for Christ, having to suffer for Christ.
God.
Those are the enemies. And Paul is trying to sit back here and convince and motivate people who want to push to the max to do it. But there's so many people that are amongst you saying you don't got to work that hard. You don't got to give that much up. You're overboard. Paul is overboard. That's extreme. You don't got to do that much. That is the literal definition of being an enemy of Christ or enemy of the cross of Christ. Because there are people that try to teach that you don't have to suffer. You don't got to give it all up. You don't have to sit back here and push yourself that much. He says that element is an enemy to Christ. Because what Paul was trying to do was push people to their maximum. And also push people that aren't convinced to give their maximum, to teach them and convince them to give it all up. That's what we just read. And there is a struggle. There is a constant struggle of convincing Israel to give their maximum effort with another element that teaches you don't got to give that max effort and you can take it easy. He says, and this is that combating force that we face now. That was the combating force of Israel back in the Hasmonean dynasty, when you had a faction of Israel pushing and holding onto the old ways, and the other faction was saying that's overboard, it's old, it's extreme, it doesn't have to be that hard. The pro-Greek guys, they were just saying it doesn't have to be that strict. It doesn't have to be that intense. Lighten things up. It's always that group or that subculture that's pushing an easier way, mixing with the group that's trying to fight and maximize himself in Christ.
Because there's a level of discomfort that they don't want to live under,
And that's why they're enemies of Christ.
Paul explained it. Go to 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 10.
Second Timothy chapter 3 and verse 10.
Read that.
But thou hast fully known my doctrine.
Paul said, you understand, y'all, he said, he explained that the church understands his doctrine, which means his style of teaching. Read.
Manner of life.
He says, you know my manner of life. You know how I live my life. You know what I believe in my life. You know what sort of life I live, what kind of life I live. That's what manner means. So short, kind, disposition. He says, you know what kind of life I live. Read.
Purpose.
He said, you know my purpose. Read on.
Faith.
You know my faith. Read on.
Long suffering.
He said, you also know my what?
Suffering.
My long suffering. You know what I'm suffering. Long suffering. Read on.
Charity.
He said, you know my level of charity. What I'm willing to give. Read on.
Patience.
He said, you know my level of patience. Read.
Persecution.
You know what I go through behind believing in Christ. Read on.
Affliction.
You know what kind of hell I catch believing in Christ. Read on.
Which came unto me at Antioch.
Read.
At Iconium. At Lystra.
Go ahead.
What persecutions I endured.
He said, what persecutions I endured. Read.
But out of them all the Lord delivered me.
He said, but the Most High delivered me out of all of them. But what does Paul know about a life in Christ? What does Paul understand about a life in Christ? Read on.
Yea, and all that will live godly in Christ Yahushua shall suffer persecution.
What does Paul understand?
Yea, all that will live godly in Yahushua.
No, not just some. He said all. He said if anybody chooses to live godly in Yahushua, what type of life must they live?
shall suffer
Shall suffer what?
persecution.
So if you have an idea that you could serve Christ with no persecution, that's why you're an enemy to the cross. Because you don't accept the fact that behind worshiping Christ is some persecution. That's part of worshiping Christ. And if you understand this, it'll be easier to suffer when you understand the requirements of serving Christ. If you understand that in order for me to live a life in Christ that's worthy of honor and reward, then let the suffering begin. But the more you try to hold off from losing or suffering or catching hell, the more you're an enemy to what the cross stands for. Let that go.
And that was what Paul was trying to. This is why Paul always taught about finding joy in tribulations.
God.
Being happy.
Finding
Being happy when you suffer.
Because he was trying to condition and teach Israel what it would take to produce gold work, to produce top end work. You have to find joy in the purging, joy in the suffering. But too many of us, we're so hyper fixated on what they're losing, you become an enemy of the work, enemy of what Christ represents. So you disconnect yourself from really tapping into the power of Christ. And this has been an aspect of, before Christ, people ran from the wisdom. Before Christ, people would run from the wisdom of the Most High, which was the Spirit. Because whether you're talking about Christ or gaining access to the Spirit, you read in Wisdom of Solomon 16, in order to gain access to the Spirit of wisdom, you have to love what? Discipline. Well, listen, who wants to live a life of discipline? Who wants to sit back and read 2 Ezra 7 and say, the ones who truly shine in the eyes of the Father live a life of what? Abstinence. Nobody wants to live and accept the conditions of that type of lifestyle. And that's the problem. This is what people have been running from the beginning. You read Wisdom of Solomon chapter 2. It talks about the wicked. The wicked talk about, listen, when you die, it's over. Live your life to the fullest now. And if a person is pushing living their life to the fullest, why would I live my life in discipline and abstaining if there's nothing waiting for me in the back end? You see the root of why people can't embrace the life of Christ. Because most people, you can get verses and Bible verses and Christ scriptures all you want. People are cool with it until they have to make a decision to do what? Lose and be uncomfortable and live a life where you're losing way more than you're gaining. That's where people say, this isn't for me.
Right.
And this is what Christ was saying. That is the root of being an enemy of Christ. People that just don't want to accept that your life is suffering and your life is about putting yourself last. So a person can follow the law all they want. You're still an enemy when you don't accept the level of sacrifice every man and woman has to commit themselves to gain access to Christ, to gain access to the Spirit. It's just different ways to say the same thing. People have been running from discipline since day one
And losing.
and losing because of it. And this is what the Most High says, all of those people live a vain life, a vain existence of pursuits and years wasted that they gain nothing out of. You sit back and get a couple things here and there. What have you lost? You've lost the discipline and the lessons needed to gain the wisdom we were all put on earth to get. And that's the truth. Now, part of me wants to stop class now because it shifts into the pursuit of Ptolemy. Now that Simon is dead, now Ptolemy wants to sit back here and take out the last son who's still free because the other sons were with Simon. Now he wants to get John Hyrcanus, who's in Gaza. And what Ptolemy is about to do is try to pay off some more sellouts. You see what's being bred now? Let's find the sellouts. Let's find the malcontent. Let's find the dregs of society and get everybody who's money hungry to come in and pitch in to sell out and regime change. This is still a classic regime change operation, something that's been going on since the beginning of time. All Antiochus VII did is, I can't fight Simon head on, so let me find a sellout or a snitch, work through him, pay him off. Let me find a Judas. Even when you read about Judas, Judas are a dime a dozen. People that have loose faith, loose principles, aren't moved or guided by what's right, integrity. And you just find a guy who just wants money in advance and just take him up. This is what all these puppet governments that are being installed all throughout the world, this is what it's about. What they don't tell you is, okay, they will sit back and prop up a puppet government, right? They'll put the top guy in, and what they don't tell you is the CIA will start keeping communications with the man's advisors. Who are his advisors that we can find a chink in the armor? And they'll start maintaining relationships with that guy who is under the top guy. Once the top guy shows that he can't be controlled anymore. Because right now, for instance, Vladimir Zelensky, there was periods of time that the heads in Europe didn't like the direction and how he was managing the country. So what they started doing, the first thing they did was Vladimir Zelensky fired his top general. His name was Zelensky. Guess what happened with Zelensky? That the UK made him the political advisor of Ukraine and Britain. So what did they just secure? They secured the guy that's going to come in and take over Zelensky if Zelensky's out of line. This is what they do all around the world. There is a woman, and I think it's Lithuania, that is Belarusian. And as soon as they find an opportunity to take out Lukashenko, who's the president of Belarus, who's tied in with Putin, they're going to move her in and be the president of Belarus. There's a person in Europe somewhere that is already prepared to be Vladimir Putin's replacement if they can regime change operate the right. This is what they do. They always look for the weak link, the weak puppet that they can sit back here and use as the puppet leader. Before they take a person out, they already have a replacement already ready to go. So they've been trying to assassinate Putin for years. They've got a person waiting to take his spot. It's just a matter of time. Even when Gorbachev fell and Russia fell apart, they already had what's his name? After Gorbachev, it was a drunk Russian. I forgot his name. Boris Yeltsin. It was Yeltsin. He came in and he just let them come in there and just destroy Russia. And the only thing Boris Yeltsin did that made any sense, he knew he was politically checkmated. He knew they had dirt on him. He was an alcoholic and they exploited. But he gave Putin the power after he sat back here and ran his term. That was the best thing he did for Russia. Because when he was in power, he ran it to the ground. But this is what they do in politics. Listen, even when they took out Nicolas Maduro in Venezuela, they already had their sellouts ready to go. It was this lady that won the Nobel Peace Prize for not doing a damn thing, for teaching destruction and the overthrow of Nicolas Maduro. So guess what? When he gets thrown in jail, she gets put in power. This is the game. And this is what was happening with Simon. This guy, Ptolemy, was there. He already showed his card to Antiochus VII. He had his men go bribe him. Now he killed Simon. Now he's calling Antiochus saying, listen, bring your soldiers to Jerusalem now. The city is weak. It's ripe for the taking. So in the midst of Ptolemy saying that, he's also paying off men in Gaza to send men to go to Gaza to kill John Hyrcanus, and also to send more men and to send himself to Jerusalem to fortify Jerusalem so that when Antiochus VII comes, he can just open the gates and sell out the country. But we'll go into that. We'll see what happens next week on that part. I don't want to go into that and stop. That'll be where we stop for today. What's going to happen is Jerusalem going to sit back and be exposed back to the Greek way already? Or is John Hyrcanus going to find a way to get out of Gaza and get to Jerusalem on time? That's how they used to do cliffhangers on Batman now. What's going to happen? remember those old 70s Batmans? You're like, what's going to happen with Batman? They're going to get out of this trick by the penguin?
Yeah.
Is he going to kill him? Stay tuned for next week and we'll find out. You know what I mean? You got to kind of leave it on some kind of a cliffhanger because I don't want to go into it, then stop and then start again. So, are there any questions on the top or in the top? Yes. I was waiting to. I thought something told me. My spices said Troy's going to say something. What's up,
As much as, speaking of President Trey,
yeah.
As much as we can appreciate what he's doing for his countrymen,
Mm-hmm.
You got to watch that one because he kind of made an offer, as far as, Jake and Eve over here, relocating over there.
Relocating what?
To his country to help them build up their infrastructure.
Where's his country?
He's talking about to petition or sway Black Americans to make a move to Burkina Faso.
Okay.
He said he's opening the door, just like Ghana had that free citizenship and the
That's hustle. Listen, that's hustle. Oh, look, I never said Abraham Joy loves Israelites in America. Listen, we've said multiple times in class, Israel wants to sit back here and go to Africa and save a buck. They're going to get hustled out there.
Yeah.
They're going to get hustled. I was watching something on TikTok not too long ago. This woman was vexed. She was like, it's screwed up. I'm out here in Ghana and they hustling. They said, whatever you buy as a Ghanaian is one price. If you're American, they triple the price. Then why go out there? I thought we're all brothers. We're all brothers and sisters. We're not. They know the damn truth. And then what happened is people will sit back and buy land and do construction processes and they'll never get the work done. Or they'll do it and they'll take your land.
Or they'll just bulldoze your house, like a lot of Americans went over there, bought land, bought these big houses, and then here comes the regular citizens, jealous, with bulldozers and came and tore them houses down.
Listen, it's better to have a bulldozer than machetes.
Yeah.
They will come on machetes too.
Yeah.
Listen, there was I don't want to set up speculation, but I guess I am. There's a brother that went out there with family and teaching Israelite stuff. There's a brother went out there to Africa teaching Jew, Israel, and he ended up getting poisoned and dying. It could have been naturally, or people might not. Maybe the nations don't want to hear their Israel and don't want to hear how we teach. Maybe that one. Maybe we weren't supposed to sit back here and go to Africa and teach the 1% of Israelites that might be still there. Maybe that wasn't the move. Maybe they hate our guts. Maybe they're envious of the perceived woke we have. That might be a little bit better than them. Maybe it's not the move to go to the Most High didn't say, Israel, go back to Africa. Most High didn't say go back to Israel, did they? We're going to get brought back to Israel. This is why all those Jews that went to Israel, they went to the most radioactive, they got sent to the most radioactive land of the country. The most nutrient-less region that the greedy Amalekite didn't want. When have you ever heard Amalek not want to take land?
Right.
Why would they send the black Jew to a particular piece of land when they're fighting for land tooth and nail? They're killing on a mass murderer level for land. But you can go get this land?
Y'all can have that.
You can have that. But all we want is land. We're committing genocide for land. But you can have that land. I'm like, there's something about that land that ain't good. Because guess what? In Dimona, they were doing nuclear testing. So guess what? Everything's radioactive. So let the black guys go to the radioactive land, like in Springfield, like with the Simpsons out.
Yeah.
Y'all go to the radioactive territory and live there and have three-eyed fish.
Three-eyed fish.
With Burns and Smithers up there on the big house, sitting back here profiting off of the water being poured and messed up. Doesn't make sense. So to your point, I only talk about Ibrahim Traore because he gives them about his people. And what he's trying to do is establish some sovereignty that they haven't had a chance to establish for quite a long time. And the truth is, if anybody is being honest, his number one priority should be his own people. Just like Putin should be giving a damn about Russia. Xi Jinping, you think he gives care about the American blacks? Why should he? Let Xi Jinping focus on China. The problem is we don't have nobody focusing on our people. Because our people want to sell out. We sit back here and get the education. We sit back here and establish and affiliated political parties to get paid. We don't do it to rebuild what's in our country. Everybody thought Obama gave a damn about us, did he? No, he did not. He sat back here and fattened the pockets of all of his constituents and people that got him to the top. But this is the mind of Israel. We'll go to the top and make ourselves some change and go home. At least this guy, Traore, cares about his people. I respect him for that. I respect Putin. He's making moves for his people. We're the idiots that in Venezuela, all of Maduro's people sold him out. Now, was Maduro obviously had corruption, but do you think that when Esau comes in, they're going to be less corrupt? That's crazy. So what's a better deal? I'd rather our people be here than foreign invaders. That's our people's problem. Very unfortunate. So believe me, I'm not acting like this guy cares about Israelites. Yes, sir.
One other thing, same thing for Iran. They've been reaching out to us over here, it sounds like they're trying to cause an uprising.
Yeah.
Under the guise of, we know who you are, we respect you, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay, you mean the way y'all respected us during the Arab slave trade.
They want regime.
But how about this? How about when Ayatollah Khomeini led that siege? Not a siege. Remember the U.S. embassy was blockaded? You realize he let all the black people go.
Yeah.
So it wasn't all bad because he understood they're not the problem. They're oppressing their own country. Why would I oppress them here when they're being screwed over in America? Let them go home. So, yeah, listen. Are Iranians pure great people? Hell no. But at least they know these black folks are getting oppressed. Why are you sitting back here and backing them and not us? Listen, is it a futile attempt? It is futile. Because black folks ain't trying to come together for nothing. So they're wasting their time anyway. They're big fat wasting their time. But it ain't like we're better off here for physical safety. But we're walking around here, they got us easy. Just bribe us. Bribe us and slander us. They're going to be caught slipping, doing dirt, running the streets, or you throw some money in their face and they'll break. But I get your point. It's a futile effort. The nations don't love us. They never have. But they're saying these guys in America don't love you either. And they're right. It's all bad. This is why the only thing you can do is cling to the Lord. That's what it is. You can wear a red hat. You can be a Democrat. It's all cap. It's all going to end up bad. Listen, truth be told, if you're going to wear a red hat, might stabilize things domestically a little better. But the whole world's going to still be jacked up. Because whether you're a Democrat or Republican, guess what? The powers that be are paying think tanks to figure out how to destroy the rest of the world. Whether you're wearing a red hat or blue hat, Biden was doing what he was supposed to do, following foreign policy, like Trump is following foreign policy. Like Gavin Newsom might follow, if he's the president, foreign policy. Like Obama was doing foreign policy. All they're doing is going to the Brookhaven Institute and all these different think tanks, letting them spend money on the best way to take out Iran, the best way to take out Russia, the best way to take out China, the best way to take out Venezuela. How do we finish taking down Cuba? I thought Trump said no new wars. What are we doing? We're warring. Because that's just politics. You still got to follow the foreign policy that every United States president did. Even everybody want to talk about how great John F. Kennedy was. You know, he was still signing off on going to war with Vietnam. Everyone wants to put the white man next to Malcolm X and Martin Luther King out like he was something special. He was still signing right off to foreign policy, regime change operation. They're all following the same playbook, just tweaking domestic policy.
Whether it's Bush's, Clinton's, Obama's, Biden's, Trump.
It doesn't matter. On foreign policy matters. So once again, man, it's all bad. We're sitting back here. We're still in the midst of Iran, the Carmanians being boars through the woods. And we're seeing how long that process of destroying the ecosystem takes. I always say to class about those boars tearing down the Texas ecosystem. That took years to happen. It took years for boars to eat away at the woods and tear down the ecosystem. It might take years for Iran to tear down the ecosystem. What's happening now? Because they're still having back and forth issues. Whatever little MOUs are being written up, Israel is blowing it up, bombing Lebanon still, right? The conditions of the strait opening up was that Israel stopped bombing Lebanon. What did Israel do? We're going to keep bombing Lebanon.
And they're still settling violence in Lebanon.
Of course. So they're sitting back here and setting that up. So the strait keeps being open and closed, open and closed. And then, all in the meantime, the U.S. is talking to that sellout in Syria, saying, we need you to go and get your money right. We're going to send you money, get your military presence right, and send your men as sleeper cells into Iran and destroy it from within. We'll sit back here and talk about peace, 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 peace. Send you guys in there, start the fighting. We need some intel. We need communication about what's going on. Then we can send our strikes in, and we'll eventually, maybe the long run, we'll get Iran in the next 5-10 years. The same way they did Syria. Now they're using this Al-Qaeda guy to do their dirty work. That's what's happening.
And who knows? Maybe Russia might sponsor a couple of nuclear weapons to Iran under the tunnels to checkmate that attempt. Who knows?
Who knows? All I know is Putin is walking around here pity-patting, taking all damn day long to make a move. He should have been sat back here and took out Kiev. All I can say is the good Lord has given us patience. He's given us time to work on ourselves. What I mean is he didn't give us patience. He gave us time because all these world affairs, we're here, we're at the end game. You just don't know how long this end game is going to take. And it behooves us to work on ourselves, fix the negative in us, and open the door for the Most High to come save us. Because it doesn't make sense what Putin is doing. It makes sense what the U.S. is doing. But Putin, he don't make no sense. It didn't even make sense why Israel, they're going to keep being that thorn in the United States' life. They're going to keep dragging the U.S. into further war. And the scripture says that. The smallest of the heathen are going to bring Edom into war. The smallest of Edom is going to bring the nation into war. You have any more questions?
Prophesy.
Anybody else? But I'm agreeing with that Ibrahim, bro. That dude don't care about black folks in America. Just bring your money. Bring your money, and we'll sit back here. We'll give you a little bit of land here and there, and then we'll do African rules and change up the laws and mess you up. Because the problem is this. Okay, even if Abraham gives you a good deal, who's going to say the next guy will give you the good deal? He might renege on everything, and then you're screwed anyway. You think they give a damn about a piece of paper saying you own something? You think they care about that? I have a deed to the house.
Yeah.
You think they care about your stinking deed?
That deed gonna get thrown in the trash with the rest of your belongings. After
it's bulldozed.
No, after it's looted first, then bulldozed.
Hey, did you really think nobody cares about that? They don't care about that crap. People think that in Ham country, they play by the same rules by Esau. No. Esau has to be really, listen,
diplomatic.
The Esau's the devil. Well, he has to be skillful if he's going to steal from you. You got to have some real paperwork game to get you. But if you have a deal, they say, okay, the only thing they can get you on is martial law. Martial law can supersede a deed. But until martial law comes, none of that deed stuff, all that deed stuff stays in place. I don't trust the legalities of Ham in their country. I don't trust
them. No, they don't operate like that. Like you said, they want to bulldoze your place, they will. People want to poison you, take your land, they will.
Yeah.
There's, I have evidence of that.
I don't even have evidence. I just had a story, and my spidey thing was like, man, they got him. And that's the truth. Or you have some guy drive up here in some beat up like Datsun truck with a damn whatever the hell
50 cal.
50 cal, and probably less than a 50 cal. What will be something you strap on that's less than a 50 cal?
M6.
Yeah, it'll be something like that. They ain't gonna have no heavyweights. It'll be an M60, and they'll bring it to you and shoot your spot.
They'll have an AK-47.
They'll have an AK. Yeah, they'll have an AK. And they'll have a little 10-year-old boy with an AK. Sit back here and jack up your house. That's why I wouldn't want to go to any of these spots. Anything else?
Then you get caught in the tribal war anyway.
That's what I'm saying. It's not worth it. It's not worth it.
I'll talk to you later about the Region 6 thing.
Brother, it's all bad. I can tell you that. You ain't got to tell me. I already know it's bad. And listen, you got the president. What about the middlemen that want their money? They got to get paid, right? Anyway, listen, it's nowhere safe. That's why the Most High said that what we're supposed to do is stand still and wait for the Lord. That's what the scripture said. Stand still. Where's that verse? This will be where we stop. Still. And it says, I think it's in Psalms.
Psalm 46 and 10.
That sounds like it. Let's see. Psalms 46 and 10. Let's hope. There's another one. It doesn't matter, man. I mean, it could have been a Job.
You got Exodus 14:13. It says, Moses said unto the people, fear ye not, stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. For he will show to you today, for the Egyptians whom ye have seen today, ye shall see them again no more forever.
Listen, that says the same concept. But there was another one I think it was either Job or Psalms, where the Most High said about this standing still. In the midst of affliction, you just stand still.
I know something.
And you wait for the Most High to come through and do it. Running and leaving and jumping and leaving location, that doesn't change the battle. The lesson is where you're at. And if you leave, you're going to face the same battle that you ran from. Because the problem is in you. People think I go to a new city, I got a new start. It has nothing to do with it. Just fix the crap in you and don't go to those negative spots that brought out the worst in you. And if you do that, you'll find peace of mind, and the Most High will sit back here and bless you in your endeavors.
Exodus 14:13.
No, we just read that one.
Job 37:14. Stand still and consider the wondrous works of the Most High.
What is it? Oh,
It says, hearken unto this.
what verse is
It
it?
was to Job. Job 37:14. So stand still and consider the wondrous works of the Most High.
And like you said, it's still in the same vein.
Yeah.
I don't have the verse on top of my head. But however it is, you have to stand still and wait and consider how the Most High has been there, because it goes into that too, about standing still and considering how the Most High has been there for you. And instead of just, because what we want to do is when things happen, I'm like, we want to make a move and act a certain way, and go this, do that, and do something with the power of our own hands, thinking that our hands can change the situation. When the solution is about being stable, not going anywhere, and just contemplating and studying and staying spiritual. That's always the answer.
You know, a lot of times we think because we have economic buying power, that economic buying power will sustain us and save us out of poverty, or out of affliction, or other countries. You know, what good is economic stability or having a $2 trillion buying power when the money's about to become worthless? When they eradicate the dollar and bring in some type of digital cryptocurrency and reorganize and reframe all the evaluations of money that we felt like we saved and had, when it becomes damn near pennies on the dollar, what foot does it or stair does that let us step on when the economic principles are not the same, when our money's not worth anything? When you look at Germany in the 1930s, after World War I, you could literally bring $1 million in German francs. I'm not francs. They had German Dutch mark. You could bring $1 million Dutch marks to the grocery store, and you could barely buy a loaf of bread. It was so bad that they would often bring the money in wheelbarrows. They would wheelbarrow the money to the stores and barely be able to buy a loaf of bread. How much money? They say that before a German economist named Hjalmar Marschall came in power and reorganized the German economy, Hitler hired him to reorganize the German economy. They said that the German dollar, the Dutch mark, was like, in comparison to a U.S. dollar, it was like 1 million Dutch marks could buy you one, or was equivalent to one American dollar after World War I. They had to eventually just scrap the money. So if we stand on the fact that we have economic buying power, what good is that when the currency collapses?
Yep.
Then you have nothing to stand on. Then what are you going to stand on? Then what we're going to have to stand on is what we've been running from this entire time, which is unified. That's when the Most High is going to force us to unify, is when this money is no longer stability or a plan B or backup as far as giving us a voice. You don't have no voice if the money's not worth anything. We can pride ourselves on having so much buying power in America, but when it's not worth anything, what happens? What voice do you have? Then you got to stick together anyway. You got to stick together and do what the Most High has been saying to do since Zechariah chapter 2, verse 1. He said, gather yourselves together. Yea, gather yourselves together, O nation not desired. I mean, Zephaniah 2 and 1. So that's what we should have been doing from the whole beginning. But we think because we have some economic buying power that's going to lead us into a new civilization, a new salvation, and that's not true. They're going to crash this dollar anyway. That's their plan. They've been planning to crash the dollar. It's not worth anything. So what voice do we have at that point? None.
It's still about servitude and faith.
Yeah.
And the only thing that can back the currency of your faith is your what? That's the point. The only currency that really counts is your works. That's why the Most High talks about the vanity of man. We'll sit back and put all this work into things that don't bring back your protection.
Oh.
The only thing that can guarantee you some form of protection is your works and your commitment and your dedication. Everything else was in vain. Anyway, so any other questions? Let's go and finish it up then. Israel, Majim, Maponya, Yerushalayim.
Stand and face Jerusalem.
Yahweh,
Yahweh.
in the name of Yahweh Shai,
In the name of Yahweh,
please listen to us right now.
please listen to us right now.
Send my God
Send my God
and the righteous angel
and the righteous angel
to watch over,
to watch over,
bless,
bless,
heal,
heal,
protect,
protect,
and make strong
and make strong
the people of Yahshua.
people of Yahshua.
Also send unto us
Also send unto us
much wisdom,
much wisdom,
much knowledge,
much understanding,
much understanding, much patience,
much patience,
much faith,
much faith,
much brotherhood,
much brotherhood,
much love,
much love,
spiritual power,
spiritual power,
and forgive all of our sins.
and forgive all our sins.
Yahweh Shai come quickly,
Yahweh shall come quickly,
for in thee
for in thee
is our hope,
is our hope,
always,
always,
and forever.
and forever.
Amen.
Amen.
Barakatah Yahweh B'Hashem Yahushai.
Barakatah Yahweh B'Hashem Yahushai.
Hallelujah. Nethalanawa. Batawara.
Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, that gives to us the law.
Barakatah Yahweh B'Hashem Yahushai.
Barakatah Yahweh B'Hashem Yahushai.
Hallelujah. Nethalanawa. Award. Lara.
Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, that gives to us the light to see.
Barakatah Yahweh B'Hashem Yahushai.
Barakatah Yahweh B'Hashem Yahushai.
Hallelujah. Nethalanawa. Ma'ayah. Wara. Lakbara.
Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, that gives to us the ram's horn to call the people.
Barakatah Yahweh B'Hashem Yahushai.
Barakatah Yahweh B'Hashem Yahushai.
Hallelujah. Nethalanawa. Shaman. Zayat. Lamashah. Yasharala.
Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, that gives to us the olive oil to anoint Israel.
Psalms 92. It is a good thing to give thanks unto the Lord.
It is a good thing to give thanks unto the Lord,
And to sing praise in thy name.
and to sing praise unto thy name.
O Yahweh.
O Yahweh,
To show forth thy loving kindness in the morning.
to show forth thy loving kindness in the morning,
And thy faithfulness every night.
and thy faithfulness every night.
Upon the instrument of 10 strings.
Upon the instrument 10 strings,
And upon the psaltery.
and upon the psaltery,
Upon the harp.
upon the harp,
With the solemn sound.
with the solemn sound.
For thou Yahweh.
For thou, Yahweh,
Hast made me glad through thy work.
hast made me glad through thy work.
I will triumph
I will
in
try
the works of thy hands.
in the works of thy hands.
O Yahweh.
O Yahweh,
How great are thy works.
how great are thy works,
And thy thoughts are very deep.
and thy thoughts are very deep.
A brutish man knoweth not.
A brutish man knoweth not,
Neither doth the fool understand this.
neither does the fool understand this.
When the wicked spring is the grass,
When the wicked spring is the grass,
and when all the works of iniquity do flourish,
and when all the works of iniquity do flourish,
it is that they shall be destroyed forever.
it is that they shall be destroyed forever.
But thou Yahweh
But thou, Yahweh,
art most high forevermore.
art most high forevermore.
Below thy enemies,
Below thy enemies,
O Yahweh,
O Yahweh,
below thy enemies
below thy enemies
shall perish.
shall perish.
All the works of iniquity
All the works of iniquity
shall be scattered.
shall be scattered.
But my horn shall not exalt,
But my horn shall not exalt,
like the horn of a unicorn.
like the horn of a unicorn.
I shall be anointed
I shall be anointed
with fresh oil.
with fresh oil.
My eye also shall see.
My eye also shall see.
My desire
My desire
on my enemies.
on my enemies,
And my ears shall hear.
and my ears shall hear.
My desire
My desire
of the wicked
of the wicked
that rise up against me.
that rise up against
The
me.
righteous shall flourish like the palm tree.
The righteous shall flourish like a palm
He
tree.
shall grow like a cedar in Lebanon.
He shall grow like a cedar in Lebanon.
Those that be planted in the house of the Lord
Those that be planted in the house of the Lord
shall flourish in the courts of our power.
shall flourish in the courts of our power.
They shall still bring forth fruit in old age.
They shall still bring forth fruit in old age.
They shall be fat and flourishing,
They shall be fat and flourishing,
to show that the Lord is upright.
to show that the Lord is upright.
He is my rock.
He is my rock,
There is no unrighteousness in him.
and there is no righteousness in him.
Hashem Yahushua.
Hashem Yahushua.
Psalms 133. Shayor.
Shayor.
Hama Iowa. La Dewan. Hana. Ma. Tawa. Wama. Naayam. Shabbat. Akim. Gam. Yassad. Hashaman. Atawa. Ayim. Hawa'as. Yuran. Ayim. Hazakwan. Zakwan. Haran. Sayaran. Ayim. Payat. Halawakiwa. Kator. Harangwan. Shayaran. Ayim. Haroria. Zayawan. Hayat. Sham. Tazawa. Yahweh. Havaraka. Hayayim. Allah. Hashem Yahshua.
Psalm 433 in English. Behold, how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. It is like the precious ointment upon the head that ran down upon the beard, even Aaron's beard, that went down to the skirt of his garments, as the dew of Hermon, and as the dew that descended upon the mountains of Zion. For there the Lord commanded the blessing, even life evermore. Amen.
Amen. Yahweh Hashem Yahshua. Yahweh. Ba'ashem. Yahshua. Ramnau. Washwali. Abiyat. Support. Birthday Howard. Hold on a second. Lost it for a second. Yahweh Hashem Yahshua. Ramnau. Washwali. Abiyat. Support. Third. Yahweh Hashem Yahshua. Ramnau. Washwali. Abiyat. Support. Yahweh Hashem Yahshua. Ramnau. Washwali. Abiyat. Support. Birthday Howard. Birthday Hawshad. Birthday Hawshad. Birthday Hawshad. Birthday Howard. Birthday Hawshad. Birthday Howard. Birthday Hawshad. On knowledge. On wisdom. Understanding. On mercy. On patience. On grace. On long-suffering. On love. On power. From your house. On power. From your house. On power. From your house. By Shem. Yahshua. One. God. One. Come on, sir. Look. That one?
God. So we only have to open Yahweh, or Yahusha, or Yahshua, men of Israel, Abati, Barak.
Yahweh Shem Yahshua.
From yourself. Birthplace sister, men of Israel, Abati. That's good. So we have God's Zion, men of Israel, Abati, Barak.
Yahweh Shem Yahshua. Yes, what's up? Dismiss. Fall out. Israel Park tuning in. Thank y'all for the time. And we'll see you guys back on Monday, all right? Shalom. Shh.